He's paid £75,000 a year to do that, but also has a role on the county council, which he hopes to continue after the elections in May. Opposition councillors say this could be a conflict of interest and that he won't be able to do both jobs justice. Lloyd says that's not true, and he's already been working effectively and fairly in both roles since he was elected.
Now, a couple who missed their flight from Luton Airport after getting stuck in a lift have been told they're likely to get compensation. Lynn Larson and her husband were due to fly to Turkey on Monday for 11 days, but didn't get much further than the lift at the Ibis Hotel. The hotel has told us that the manager's in contact with them to assess the details of their trip and the costs involved. Elsewhere, the British Medical Association's calling for a delay in the launch of a new non-emergency NHS telephone advice line. It's ordering to ensure patient safety. The one-to-one service is due to go live in most areas on Monday, but pilot schemes have struggled to cope with call volumes and have experienced computer problems. Here, and a lecturer from Buckinghamshire says our high streets are struggling because men are designing the shops and what goes into them. This year, some of Britain's biggest retailers have gone out of business. Well, Gloria Moss from Bucks New University says 83% of all shoppers are women, so there needs to be more emphasis on what they want. We'll be hearing from people across Bedfordshire on exactly what they want in the next half an hour here on BBC Three Counties Radio. Turning to sport, and Stevenage looks set to be under the caretaker management of skipper Mark Roberts once again for the trip tomorrow. Borough sit in 15th. That's ahead of the Good Friday game against Crawley. Finally, weather, and we're going to see a few little wintry showers around. Mainly dry though this afternoon. Temperatures reaching a little bit warmer than yesterday. 5 degrees Celsius. That's 41 in Fahrenheit. There's more news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties. BBC Three Counties Radio, first for news.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Lots coming up this morning, including would you be prepared to take a relative into your home if they were mentally ill? Well, we'll hear the story of a Bedford woman who says her family is being torn apart by her brother who suffers from paranoid schizophrenia. David Lloyd is already the Police and Crime Commissioner for Hertfordshire, but he's going to be standing in the County Council elections too. How well can you do two jobs at the same time? And what puts you off shopping on your local high street? Is it the car park charges, the lack of variety? Well, one Buckinghamshire academic says it's all down to who's designing the stores. Reporter Justin Dealey can tell us more in around 20 minutes' time. You can get in touch by going to facebook.com/BBC3CR, or all of the lines are free. Who's going to be the first caller this morning? 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
A Bedford woman says her family is being torn apart as she's struggling to cope with her mentally ill brother living with them. Kirsty Wilson is divorced and lives with her 3 children aged 18, 15 and 10. 9 months ago, her 39-year-old brother, who has paranoid schizophrenia, arrived at her doorstep as he was homeless. Since then, she's been struggling to get help from a local authority and the mental health services.
So we're in your kitchen, and this is where you and your family spend a lot of their time.
Yeah, it is, yeah. My brother is in the living room. Obviously, mental health issues, he's on medication. There are problems with that. My children don't know him. They feel afraid. They feel uncomfortable. You know, they come in from school and the first thing they do is come in the kitchen and raid the fridge like most kids. But then they don't leave. I'm cooking, they stay in here with me, you know, they sit at the table and that's where they stay.
And this is to avoid going into the living room where your brother's sort of camped full time.
Yeah, his bedroom is my living room. He sleeps on my sofa, 24/7. He sits there all day. He doesn't do anything. He doesn't go anywhere. The mental health offer 1 hour a week where they take him out. Sometimes they turn up, sometimes they don't. And the other however many hours there are left in a day, I'm left to deal with him. I can't go out and leave my children with my brother because he's potentially unstable. He's, heavily medicated. And he does have mood swings, so I can't leave them. They now don't have anyone come over to the house, they're friends. But at the same time, there is nowhere in my house that we can actually all sit together as a family because he's actually sleeping in our only family environment. Because he lives at my house, You know, they've basically backed off and said, we will give you 1 hour a week, we will walk him to his Hearing Voices group, and basically the rest of the time you deal with it. That's not...
And your children have to deal with it
Absolutely,
too.
It's not acceptable.
And they're all under 18.
He listens to headphones, which we can actually hear, and it's the sound of rain, which obviously soothes in some way.
So if you do choose to go into the living room where the TV is, he's actually sitting there with headphones on, listening to the sound of rain?
Yes. It's actually been said that people that are schizophrenic, some hear voices, my brother does, and sometimes by listening to things like rain or soothing music, it can actually drown out the voices.
What impact is that having on you?
It's destroyed us as a family. We've got no closeness anymore. We can't sit and watch a film together. It's absolutely destroyed my family.
Well, we'll be speaking to Kirsty later on in the show. On the line now is Marjorie Wallace from the mental health charity Sane. Good morning, Marjorie.
Good morning.
How common is this sort of situation?
Well, sadly, it's getting a little more common because the families are now being put under a lot of pressure to take their relative back with them. Obviously, it's a very much cheaper option for the government. And they say, OK, well, they'll get the sort of teams to come around and visit them. But it's completely wrong. I mean, when I heard that story, I thought, well, I started Sane 25 years ago, precisely because of families in the position that Kirsty's in now. It's not the right place for a paranoid schizophrenic. He should be in a sheltered accommodation. He should have 24-hour supervision, and the family should not be exposed to that kind of pressure and also to the kind of fear that the girls are living in.
What sort of help should Kirsty expect to get with her brother?
He should be, I don't know his case, it's really hard because I haven't been given it by the authorities or anything like that, but he certainly should have a care plan. He certainly, as I say, should be in a place with 24-hour supervision, a place of a flat. He should be getting therapy, which he may be getting, and he's got this Hearing Voices group, which sounds at least something, but he certainly should not be living with a mother who's got children that are growing up where they can't have a family life. And also they're very, I mean, he has a particular form of mental illness, paranoid schizophrenia, which is quite severe, and it's not the best thing for him, maybe, to be in circumstances where he feels that, there are people around him. If he's hearing voices, he needs some space of his own as well.
It must be very difficult for a relative in this situation who's torn between the feeling of responsibility towards her brother, but also worries about her own children.
Yes, and you have to balance the rights of her own brother to have somewhere to live. But as I said before, it's not the right place for him to be living. I mean, it's a very difficult illness for him to be coping with. And as she's saying, he's probably hearing voices. He's got to put on music to drown the voices. His way of life is something that couldn't fit in with ordinary family life. And it's not where he should be for his own good and treatment, and it's not for her.
Can this situation be blamed partly on cuts to care services?
I don't know their reason for doing this, but I gather that he'd been living in various places, in and out. Part of the problem is that they have they've decimated the psychiatric beds, so they don't like anyone in a hospital or as an inpatient. They have very few properly supervised places of accommodation or hostels when there are people on duty, when experienced people are available. They do have, I think they have a very sort of small bedded in the Bedford. They have 2 or 3 small units. I don't know all their resources. All I know is that whatever the resources, they should find somewhere for this young man.
Marjorie, Kirsty's going to come on the show later on. What advice would you give her?
She has to, well, I would like her to call Sane and we can sort of talk it all through.
We'll certainly pass your details on to her.
I'd like her to be able to talk about her worries about her children, particularly her sort of 15-year-old and 10-year-old daughter, and like to be able to support her. But I think that she's got to fight, and we'll certainly support her in this, because it's a situation that should not be happening. And actually we're getting at Sane more and more calls about housing with the cuts that are happening. we're getting more and more people afraid about where they will go if they're mentally ill, or families having pressure put on them by saying, oh, you take this person home. Of course the person should not feel as though they're cut off from homes, but it has to be right, and it has to be where a home family can manage, and most families can't really manage somebody who's sleeping on a sofa and is extremely ill.
Marjorie, thank you very much. Marjorie Wallace from the mental health charity Sane. Kirsty's coming on the show later on, and we'll certainly put you both in touch if that's what she wants. Well, mental health services in Bedford are provided by the South Essex Partnership University NHS Foundation Trust. They say because of patient confidentiality, they can't confirm or deny anything relating to the case. Bedford Borough Council say there's no information on their client database regarding Kirsty's brother. 08459 455 555.
The closer you get, the better you look, baby. The better you look, the more I want you. When you turn on your smile, I feel my heart go wild. I'm like a child with a brand new toy, and I get the sweetest feeling, honey, the sweetest, baby, the sweetest, loving you, yeah. The warmer your kiss, the deeper you touch me, baby. The deeper your touch, the more you thrill me. It's more than I can stand. Girl, when you hold my hand, I feel so grand that I could cry. And I get the mama, the sweetest, baby, the sweetest, loving you. The greater your love, the stronger you hold me, baby. The stronger you hold, the more I need you. With every passing day, I love you more in every way. I'm in love to stay, and I wanna say, I get baby, the sweetest, honey, the sweetest, loving you. Baby, the sweetest.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. 08459 455 555. Whose fault is it that you don't go to the high street anymore? Apparently it's my fault. Not mine literally, but I mean me and my male brothers. We design the shops. And it's mainly women that use the high street. When we've sent Justin Dealey out and about, and he is a man, trust me, I have the medical evidence to prove it. To get your views on that, if you want to give us a call, 08459 455 555. Right, let's get the travel news with Sophie Tyler.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. Well, anti-clockwise on the M25, one lane is closed and there's slow traffic following a broken down vehicle just between junction 26 at Waltham Abbey and 25 at the A10 for Enfield. And also southbound on the M40, two lanes are closed following a serious accident. A lorry and a car involved between 9 at Bicester and 8A at Oxford. Everything else really not looking too bad, actually. All seems to be moving fairly nice out there, and the trains aren't looking too bad either on the departure ports. All seem to be running to time at the moment. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Sophie,
Mm-hmm.
Is everything all right?
No, I'm having a little crisis over here.
What's happened? I can hear a tension in your voice. What's going on?
Well, I've locked myself out of my flat, and neither of my housemates are in, and neither of my housemates will be back until Monday.
Oh, and it's only Thursday.
It is only Thursday. So I'm just thinking where I could sort of camp out for the bank holiday, maybe.
Listen, I've got a sofa that you're more... If you can't find anywhere else, my sofa is there for you to kip on.
That is incredibly handy.
You're welcome. Have you not given a spare key to anyone? That's a basic.
Do you know, I gave a spare key to someone, and they lost it. Nothing's working.
Sophie Tyler, thank you very much indeed. Well, it begs the question to you, dear listener. The other day we were asking, what have you been locked in or trapped in? What have you been locked out of? Oh, you see how this works. 08459 455 555. I may tell you one of the many times I've been locked out of my own house. I do it all the time because, like Sophie, I'm an idiot. What have you been locked out of? 08459 455 555. Right, it's 6:17. It's Thursday the 28th of March. I'm Iain Lee. These are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. A Bedford woman says she's not getting enough support with her mentally ill brother who's living with them. The Police and Crime Commissioner for Hertfordshire is facing criticism for his decision to stand in the upcoming county council elections. And in sport, Mark Roberts will remain in charge of Stevenage for the trip to Crawley tomorrow. The weather today for Beds, Herts and Bucks. A few isolated wintry showers possible, but dry for the most part with some bright or sunny spells. Maximum temperature, 5 degrees. Coming up before 6:30, David Lloyd is already the Police and Crime Commissioner for Hertfordshire, but he's going to be standing in the county council elections too. How well can you do two jobs at the same time? And what have you been locked out of? We did What Have You Been Trapped In the other day. Well, to celebrate Sophie Tyler being locked out of her house until Monday, what have you been locked out of? Facebook.com/BBC3CR or 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio. Easter Monday on BBC Three Counties Radio. From 6, Iain Lee.
I'm actually going to turn up for work. I'll be here. I could do with your help. Could you give me a call?
From 9, it's Barry Hyde.
It's Three Counties Gold, playing music from the 40s to the noughties.
From 11, Sophie Solaria.
We'll be talking house and gardens. Get your questions ready for my team of gardening and interior designing experts.
From 2, Three Counties Sport.
We're here with live football as MK Dons host Brentford, Stevenage entertain Hartlepool and Luton are at home to Kidderminster.
Rounding off the weekend from 6, Ian Brown.
I'll be talking to guests from Viva Forever, Burn the Floor and the hottest show in London at the moment.
Easter Monday on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, I feel like a bit of a sap because I didn't book Easter Monday off. I didn't realise everyone else had booked Easter Monday off.
Well, nearly everybody.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the people there are the A- team. They're not the A team, but they're the A- team, and there's some excellent names here. But we haven't got a full team for the show on Monday. We have nothing planned, producer Laura. I'm a little bit concerned about it.
Well, don't be too concerned.
Okay.
We've got a few days to come up with some fabulous ideas.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what we're going to do, actually. I don't really know.
OK, well, that's that. You're the producer and you don't know. Oh, OK. There's producer Laura there. So all I'm saying is I will be here on Monday from 6. I'm guessing we're going to require your phone calls quite a lot. So could you just make sure you're listening Monday between 6 and 9 and you have your phones by you? I suspect it's going to be very caller heavy. Is that all right? Good. We'll need your help on Monday. I look forward to talking to you. So to celebrate the fact that Sophie Tyler, our travel lady, is locked out of her house. What have you been locked out of? 08459 455 555. I know how to break into a house now. If it's just got one of those Yale locks, it's not double locked, I can break into a house with a plastic water bottle. Yeah, and I know, and leave no damage whatsoever. Incredible. I can do it. Justin, do you know how to break into a house with a plastic water bottle?
No. I know how to break into one with a ladder. Different story for a different day, though.
Listen, once... I will talk about what you're here for in a second. I did once get locked out of my house, and the only way to get in was for me to smash a window, right? Have you ever tried to smash a window?
Yes, it's hard.
It's really hard, isn't it? It took about... I had a crowbar. It took 5 goes.
It took me about 3, so clearly I'm stronger than you. But, it's a tough job. Somebody's got to do it, though. It's tough.
Somebody's got to do it. Burglars, primarily. Look, listen, later on after the show, I'll show you how to break a lock with a plastic bottle.
I look forward to it.
08459 455 555. What have you been locked out of? The reason we're speaking to Mr. Dealey is because you, dear listener, may have been put off going to your local high street because you do your shopping online, or there's not enough variety of stores, or it costs too much to park. Well, a Buckinghamshire academic claims our high streets are struggling because of me and you, Justin.
It's outrageous.
Blokes.
Yes.
It's because we, not us literally, we're not architects, but we design the shops and what goes in them, and that's putting ladies off. Well, it's been a difficult year for many retailers, with HMV, Jessops and Blockbusters all going into administration. Dr. Gloria Moss from Bucks New University says there needs to be more emphasis on what women want. Good movie. Because they shop more. Well, our shopaholic correspondent Justin Dealey, you whereabouts are you? You're out and about.
I'm in Luton at the moment. Ian, can I just say, you read that beautifully. Word for word. That was absolutely wonderful.
I wasn't reading that, Justin. I was just spinning that off the top of my head. I was freestyling.
Even better. I'm in Luton at the moment, but I tell you what, I'm absolutely amazed by these views of Dr. Gloria Moss, who will be live on your programme after 7, saying that these shops are too manly, essentially. Ian, when was the last time you went shopping with your wife? And she said, well, I'm looking around here at the design of these shops, and for me, clearly it's been designed by a man, and it's not for me.
She's never said that.
Yeah, exactly.
How can the Marks and Spencer's lingerie section, or Boots, how do they look manly?
I know, it's just incredible.
Boots look manly?
It is incredible. So I was talking to ladies yesterday in Hemel Hempstead about what puts them off going to their local high street, and this is what they had to say.
They're all the same, so I could go to Watford, I could go up to London, but they're all the same.
It's too samey for you. What about the design? As a lady, do you think the design of shops is appealing to you?
Oh, yes, I can walk into Marks and Sparks and be quite happy. British Home Stores. John Lewis is very nice, because you've got the perfumes at the front.
So you don't think that design, then, is too manly? You wouldn't think it's been designed by a man?
No, I wouldn't. No, because there's perfume, nice handbags, all near the front, which I can wander into.
Now, Kate, you're from Berkhamsted. Does anything put you off your local high street in Berkhamsted?
No, it's a really nice high street. I think just because it's a small town, there, after a while, you kind of go into the same shops repeatedly, so it's nice to have a change. But
okay, so you're happy with that. What about Hemel High Street? What puts you off Hemel Hempstead High Street?
Just probably the shops are slightly different, and they're not as nice as the ones in Berkhamsted. So, although the actual pedestrianised bit in Hemel is great because I've got 2 small children, so one of them can run around quite safely. So,
okay, and just lastly, in terms of the Marlows in Hemel, the big shopping centre there, but there's never a point where you walk into a shop and you think, oh, here we go, this has clearly been designed by a man. You never thought that once?
Oh, I sometimes think it's been designed by someone who doesn't have children, but no, not necessarily, not that observant, I'm afraid.
Right, 2 ladies here. Madam, in terms of your local high street, we're here in Hemel today, what puts you off your local high street?
Having a lot of shops closed down, which Hemel does, because people shopping online now, and it's just miserable to go in there and find sort of half the shops closed down.
Okay, and Madam, what about yourself? What puts you off Hemel High Street?
Nothing. I quite like Hemel High Street. It's St Albans. I can't stop
Got to gripe about it. Very, very quickly, the actual design of the shops, would you say, as a lady, that the design of those shops is not appealing to you?
Never thought about it. You just get on with it, because they'll do what they want anyway. So.
Okay. And yourself?
Same for me.
Some shops are masculine. W.H. Smith's is designed by a teenage boy, I think.
Possibly.
Because it's quite. I like Smith's, but it's very messy in there.
Yes, I know what you mean. I think the problem with W.H. Smith, that they don't really know what they are, do they?
No.
In terms of their brand awareness. But those ladies there again saying, well, no. You know, I've never thought about this once. Dr. Gloria Moss, I would probably say the views are slightly sexist. Just my views, saying that women have the buying power, but men clearly are designing the shops. I have never known one lady, and there may be one listening right now, who says, do you know what? I'm not going to use my local high street because it's just too manly.
Here's the thing as well. You know the window dressers?
Yeah.
They're always... I'm going to do a sweeping generalisation here, and someone's going to phone me up and tell me I'm wrong. They're always women or gay men.
Yes.
They are. It is. And you very rarely... I'm going to get myself in so much trouble!
I will go along with this, though. It's true.
I'm backing away from where I was about to go. But it is primarily women and gay men that are the shop dressers, I think.
And that, you would think, would entice people into the shops because the women have got the buying power.
Yes. 08459 455 555. Can we find a very butch, heterosexual window dresser just to prove me wrong? Dr. Gloria Moss will be on the show later on, so we shall put your accusation of sexism to her.
Absolutely.
Where are you off to now, Justin?
Going to be heading off very soon to St Albans, trying to track down a lady who we believe is getting £70,000 a year in benefits, but also she's what? Claiming apparently £70,000 in benefits.
Hi, Chihuahua.
Yes, more to come on that, and also more to come on Lynn Larson. For those who missed the story on Monday, she was heading off to Istanbul, a flight from Luton Airport. Yes. She travelled up from Wales. She stayed in the Ibis Hotel next door to Luton Airport, so she wouldn't be late. She was there with her suitcases. She got into the lift. She was off to catch her flight. She got stuck in the lift for an hour and a half. A lot of people have been talking about this. Well, she clearly missed her flight. Her holiday has been ruined. She's gone back to Wales. We have got an update from the Ibis Hotel. They are now talking to us, and you'll hear that live on your show after 7.
Very exciting, Justin. Thank you very much indeed. Ooh, keen to see what happens there. Genuinely don't know. Travel news now with the locked out Sophie Tyler.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Southbound on the M40, 2 lanes still closed following a serious accident. A lorry and a car involved between 9 at Bicester and 8A at Oxford. Speed down to around 40 miles an hour. And in Milton Keynes as well, Marlborough Street is partially blocked following an accident. 1 car involved just around the A509 at the Portway there. Also getting some reports in at the moment on the A5183 just outside the Chequers pub at the roundabout. It's been a multi-vehicle accident. Recovery is on the way at the moment and police are at the scene. Reports are a little bit sketchy, so if you know anything, do be sure to get in touch. Everything else not looking too bad at the moment, and the trains are running to time on the departure boards. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Sophie. 08459 455 555. What have you been locked out of, and how did you resolve it? We'll discuss this more after the news and sport with Serena Farrow.
Getting beds, hearts and bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. A Bedford woman says she's not getting enough support with her mentally ill brother who's living with the family. Elsewhere, the Police and Crime Commissioner for Hertfordshire's facing criticism for his decision to stand in the upcoming county council elections. Well, we'll be having more on this story coming up in the next half an hour. A couple who missed their flight from Luton Airport after getting stuck in a lift have been told they're likely to get compensation now, and the British Medical Association's calling for a delay in the launch of a new non-emergency NHS telephone advice line. That's the news. Now let's turn to all the morning sport.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks Sport.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
So Watford will check on the fitness of several players after international duty. That's ahead of tomorrow's home game against former manager Sean Dyche's Burnley. But defender Nyron Nosworthy's definitely missing after suffering an ankle injury playing for Jamaica. More from Simon Oxley.
Nosworthy's injury could mean a return for fit again Fitz Hall, with manager Gianfranco Zola waiting on leading scorer Matej Vydra, who scored twice for the Czech Republic on Tuesday, new Jamaican international Lloyd Doyley, and England under-21 midfielder Nathaniel Chalabar. Key midfielder Alman Abdi could also be fit to return. Zola has often rested players after internationals, but with so much at stake, will he do so again?
Turning to League One then, and Mark Roberts will remain in charge of Stevenage for the trip to Crawley. They're in 15th position. And Milton Keynes Dons make the long trip to Hartlepool with striker Isali McLeod in injury doubt. Skipper Dean Lewington's again expected to be missing, but Luke Chadwick, Daniel Powell and Dean Bowditch are all back in training. Elsewhere in League Two, Wycombe host Accrington at Adams Park. And moving on to Milton Keynes Lightning, the chairman says everything will be done to make the ice hockey team's temporary move to Coventry as painless as possible. The club's junior team's may move to Oxford. Vito Rosa hosted a fans forum this week ahead of the refurbishment of the rink in MK.
It's going to have an impact, no question about it. But at the same time, we think many of our fans will make the travel up to Coventry from Milton Keynes. We're going to be laying on coaches, and we're going to try and make it as easy as we possibly can.
Finally, tennis news. Andy Murray plays Marin Cilic in the quarterfinals of the Miami Masters tonight. BBC Three Counties Radio. There'll be more at 7.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Lots coming up between now and 7 o'clock, including David Lloyd is already the Police and Crime Commissioner for Hertfordshire, but he's going to be standing in the County Council elections too. Our political reporter, Paul Scoynes, will be explaining how he can do both roles. How well can you do two jobs at the same time? And our travel guru, Sophie Tyler, is locked out of her house until Monday. What have you been locked out of? 08459 455 555. You can go to Facebook as well, facebook.com/BBC3CR, or you can send me a cheeky text, not too cheeky, 81333. Start your text 3CR. Put your name on it, please, otherwise it ain't getting written out.
Yesterday, well, it seemed so cool when I walked you home, kissed goodnight. I said it's love, you said alright. It's funny how I could never cry until tonight, and you passed by, hand in hand with another guy. You're dressed to kill, and guess who's dying? Dance away the heartache, dance away.
is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio, 08459 455 555. Now, the Police and Crime Commissioner for Hertfordshire is facing criticism for his decision to stand in the upcoming county council elections. David Lloyd has been a county councillor for nearly 15 years, but will stand down from his job as a borough councillor in May. However, opposition parties and members of the public say the PCC job is too big to do part-time. Well, our political reporter Paul Scoynes is here. Paul, what's the problem with this?
Well, David Lloyd would say, first of all, that there isn't a problem.
Right, and he'll be coming in later on
to say that. Yes, he's currently, I suppose he's got three roles at the moment. He's got the two council jobs and the PCC roles. As you say, he's going to not stand in a by-election for his borough council job in May, but he will be standing for his county council role at the moment. Now, opposition councillors say that they're surprised by this, that they feel that the PCC role is such an important job. Bearing in mind, Iain, he earns around £75,000 for that. It deserves to have his full attention. And they also say that there's a potential conflict of interest because as the PCC, he's supposed to represent the whole of Hertfordshire and all of its residents. And as a county councillor, he represents the area of Bridgewater. So they say, well, he's got a specific loyalty to that part of the county. He says that's ridiculous.
Opposition councillors aren't particularly happy, are they? What have they been saying?
Well, I spoke to a couple of them. The leader of the Lib Dem group is Stephen Giles Medhurst, and he said that he's disappointed that David's not standing down. He says he'd assume, as would he expects most of the people who voted for him, that the role of the PCC is a full-time one, and he said that considering that the county council meetings are often during the day, he would either need to miss those or vital PCC work. And Sharon Taylor, who's the leader of the Labour group on Herts County Council, she said that she was a bit surprised. She assumed it was a job in itself, the PCC role, and she also said that she had concerns potentially about him representing a certain area in Hertfordshire and that having potentially preferential treatment.
What do the public think?
Well, I spoke to a couple of people in Market yesterday. This is what they told me.
Well, I suppose it depends on how well he's doing his job and whether he can make the meetings and things like that by doing two jobs.
No, he should just do the one job. We need the police just to do their job. There's so much crime, it needs just to be the police job. The way the country is at the moment, I think the policing is a big thing, and I think that's what he should be there for. So he shouldn't be devoting some of his time to something else. No.
Well, David Lloyd is coming in later on, but what's he saying at the moment?
Well, he totally dismisses this out of hand. He said that most councillors have secondary jobs, and he said that he used to work on the police authority while serving as a councillor and was able to do both. He also says he's not pointed out any rule, he's not broken any rules, I should say, and he can give both of his jobs 7 days a week attention. He says at the moment he's working from around 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. most days. He says that he's been working in this sort of particular role since November and has been working on, the county council since then as well. No evidence to show that he's giving any particular area preferential treatment. He says this is absurd.
Gosh, I work from 6 till 9 every day, and that's enough for me. I'm shattered after those 3 gruelling hours. What's happened elsewhere in the country? Are there any other PCCs with more than one job?
Well, yes. I mean, lots did come over from the old police authorities, so lots have been councillors and are still councillors. And if we just look to the west of our region, Anthony Stansfeld is the Conservative PCC for West Berkshire Council. No, not just West Berkshire, for the Thames Valley area. He's also a councillor on West Berkshire Council, and he sits on committees. He's attended 4 of the 6 committees he's supposed to have done this year. Just looking a bit further north though, Iain, East Riding Council in Yorkshire. Now, both the PCC of Humberside and Deputy PCC were from that council, and they resigned their seats following a long campaign and a council vote against their dual roles. But just going back to that, that David Lloyd says, well, he has effectively resigned his local seat, if you like. He says as a county councillor, you have to act for the whole area anyway. You're making decisions for the whole county. So he really doesn't feel he could be accused of giving any particular area a favourable, preferential treatment, if you like. So he totally dismisses those sorts of claims that the opposition councillors give and says he's doing a good job.
And he'll be joining us on the show later on.
He will indeed. 7:30 he's in.
Excellent, Paul. Thank you very much indeed. 08459 455 555. What do you think? Does that surprise you that the PCC is doing 2 jobs at once? Does that concern you? Or do you think it's all a fuss over nothing? 08459 455 555.
For I have got another girl, making me say that I've got as from today, well, I've got somebody that's new. I ain't no fool and I don't take what I don't want, for I've got another girl. She's sweeter than all the girls, and I met quite a few. Nobody in all the world can do what she can do. And so I'm telling you, this time you better stop, for I've got another girl who will love me till the end. Through thick and thin, she will always be my friend. I don't want to say that I've been unhappy with you, but as from today, well, I've seen somebody that's new. I ain't no fool and I don't take what I don't want, for I have got another girl who will love me till the end. Through thick and thin, she will always be my friend. I don't want to say that I've been unhappy with you, but as from today, well, I've seen somebody that's new. I ain't no fool and I don't take what I don't want, for I have got another girl.
Boing. I like that. That's a throwaway song for the Beatles. They used to just toss them off on the B-sides of some of their albums. I think that's from Help. I think. And that may even be on that may even be in the film Help. I'm not quite sure. But it's good, that. It's just one of those ones that it's not particularly weighty or important, but it's a nice, frothy Beatles song. Good morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio, 08459 455 555. We're asking, well, two questions this morning, really. Lots of questions, but the two that I'd like to focus on. Do you think that the high street what's putting you off going to the high street? Is it the fact that it supposedly it's designed by men? I don't quite understand this. We'll be speaking to the doctor who's put forward this theory later on in the show, and also to celebrate the fact that our travel lady, Sophie Tyler, has been locked out of her home. Well, she's locked out until Monday. What have you been locked out of? I've been locked out of my house more times than I care to remember. There was about 2 months where I got locked out of my house 5 times. And those, when you call up the gentleman, the locksmiths, to come and bust you in, that's like 120 quid. Cash. Oh, they want... We don't take cards. Check? No. Cash then, is it? Oh, yeah. Can I get receipt? 08459 455 555. Right, here's the travel news now with our locked-out Sophie Tyler.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Southbound on the M40, 2 lanes still closed following a serious accident involving a lorry and a car between 9 at Bicester and 8A at Oxford. Now, Marlborough Street in Milton Keynes also still partially blocked following an accident. 1 car involved at the A509 at Portsway. And we're also still getting reports as well at the A5183, that's just outside the Chequers pub at the roundabout. There has been a multi-vehicle accident there. Now, the Barnet bypass heading south through Boreham Wood, still heavy this morning between Stirling Corner and the Watford bypass, and also heavy as well on the A405 North Orbital Road, just around the M25 Junction 21A roundabout. Everything else not too bad at all. Trains still moving nicely this morning on the departure boards. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Sophie. Right, 6:46, Thursday the 28th of March. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. A Bedford woman says her family's been torn apart because she's not getting enough support with her mentally ill brother. Hertfordshire's Police and Crime Commissioner is being criticised for wanting to carry out 2 jobs at the same time as he's set to stand in the upcoming county council elections. And in sport, Mark Roberts will remain in charge of Stevenage for the trip to Crawley tomorrow. Coming up, we'll get the latest from the crisis-hit Cyprus as banks are set to reopen today for the first time in almost 2 weeks after they were shut to prevent mass withdrawals. But before that, let's get the weather with Elizabeth Rossini.
Beds, Herts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Well, I'll tell you what, last time I was on shift all the way back on last Sunday, it looked like it was going to snow for the Easter bank holiday weekend, so thank goodness that threat has now gone away, but it doesn't look like we're going to see any big changes at all. It should stay mostly dry. We may just see one or two very light icing sugar sort of dustings at times, just wintry flurries, but really not amounting to very much. So most places staying dry and, of course, staying bitterly cold as well. Now, temperatures at the moment around -2 right across the three counties, and they're going to rise to probably between around 3 and perhaps 5 degrees Celsius later on in Stevenage and Milton Keynes and in Aylesbury as well. So 5 degrees Celsius, bit of northeasterly breeze. Of course, it's going to feel colder than that, but we will see a little bit of sunshine around this morning, I reckon. Clouding over somewhat into the afternoon, but still a good few sunny spells persisting, particularly across parts of Buckinghamshire. So, so far so good, really. And then overnight tonight, the northeasterly wind dying down a touch more. We will see a very sharp frost into tomorrow because there'll be some clear spells around as well. So temperatures dipping to -3, -4 degrees Celsius, perhaps a touch lower in the rural spots. And then tomorrow it's going to be more of the same. The chance of 1 or 2 wintry flurries, bit of brightness around, still very cold. And it's looking similar on Saturday and on Sunday as well. The difference being is that Sunday we're going to see a lot more chocolate around. That's the forecast.
Don't listen, Elizabeth. I was listening to the very posh Radio 4 last night, and the weather gentleman was saying that this could go on for another 2 or 3 weeks. This cold weather.
Yes, it could. Yes, it could.
That'll be the middle of April.
I know, and then we say that the temperatures are going to creep back up to average.
Oh, for goodness sakes!
What a treat,
Elizabeth. Thank you very much indeed. Another 2 or 3 weeks of this cold.
Weekends on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Chetton Partuck.
For me, Sunday evenings are a chance to sit back, relax and get your head together for the week ahead.
Chetton Partuck.
There's plenty of music to help you reflect, relax or revive yourself after a long weekend, and plenty of talking points with news, entertainment and lots of live guests in the studio.
Every Sunday night from 6.
I like hearing stories. It's your experiences that really make this station what it is.
Chetton Partuck. Every Sunday night from 6.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
We're asking what have you been locked out of. Kelly Betts, who works on this show. I've been locked out of my car in the pouring rain, and Ben, who works here, had to help me break into my own car. How do you break into your own car? I remember years ago getting locked out of my mum's car when I was 17. I first learnt to drive a Nissan Micra. It was white, and I panicked. I'd locked the keys in the car. Remember the old days? You could lock the keys in the car. I don't think you can do that anymore. There was that thing of you'd look in and the key would be on the car seat. Can you lock the keys in the car anymore? I don't think you can. My producer Laura is saying you can. I don't know. Has it happened to you then? No. And so to break in, we broke in at proper burglar style. I was too terrified of telling my mum that I'd locked her keys in. So we broke the seal on the window, got a coat hanger and did the coat hanger thing and opened it. In doing so, completely knackered the seal, and it forever after that would let in water. And my mum said, well, I've got spare keys. Why didn't you just come and get the spare keys? Because I was an idiot, that's why. 08459 455 555. What have you been locked out of? Is there anybody else that can do the plastic bottle trick to open a Yale lock? It's very easy. It's worryingly easy. That is why you should always double lock your doors. I could break into your house.
Living on free food tickets, ordering the milk from a hole in the roof where the rain came through. What can you do? Tears from your little sister, crying because she doesn't have a dress without a patch for the party to go. But you know she'll get by, cause she's living in the love of the common people. Smiles from the heart of a family man. Daddy's gonna buy you a dream to cling to. Mama's gonna love it just as much as she can. And she can. It's a good thing you don't have us there. People fall through the hole in your pocket and you lose it in the snow on the ground. You gotta walk into town to find a job, trying to keep your hands warm. When the hole in your shoe, let the snow come through until you're to the bone. Somehow you better go home where it's warm, where you can live in the love of the common people. Smile from the heart of a family man. Daddy's gonna buy you a dream to cling to. Mama's gonna love you just as much as she can. And she can.
dream ain't easy, but the closer the knit, the tighter the fit, and the chills stay away. Just take them in stride for family pride. You know that faith is your foundation, with a whole lot of love and a warm conversation. But don't forget to pray, just making it strong where you belong. And we're living in the love of the common people, smiles from the heart of a family man. Daddy's gonna buy you a dream to cling to, Mama's gonna love it just as much as she can. And she can. Yes, we're living in the love of the common people, smiles from the heart of a family man. Daddy's gonna buy you a dream to cling to, Mama's gonna love it just as much as she can. Living in the love of the common people, smiles from the heart of a family man. Daddy's gonna buy you a dream to cling to, Mama's gonna love it just as much as she can. Living in the love of the common people, smiles really hard on a family man. Daddy's gonna buy you a dream to cling to, Mama's gonna love it just as much as she can. And she can.
Morning, Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio, 08459 455 555. Go to the Facebook page as well. You've been very feisty on there. I like it, although there's one bloke I'm going to block. And I do have the power to do that. He's very rude about me, and I've kind of tolerated his rudeness. But I guess I saw a thing last night. I thought, oh, God, do you know what? Go away. If you're not enjoying it, just don't take part. As simple as. Facebook.com/BBC3CR. Now, banks in Cyprus are set to reopen today, almost 2 weeks after they were shut to prevent mass withdrawals, while the country negotiated the terms of a £10 billion international bailout. The banks will reopen at noon local time and stay open for 6 hours. Billions of euros are reported to have been flown into the country to meet the expected demand. But so-called capital controls are being imposed to prevent a huge outflow of money from the banking system and from Cyprus itself. Restrictions include limits on cash withdrawals, credit card transactions and transfers abroad. Alina Panaritis is a World Bank economist and a former member of the Greek Parliament.
A lot of Cypriots are thinking, what did they really gain out of getting into the euro? The pound that they had before, the Cypriot pound, was a strong currency. Their economy was very healthy and strong. They don't really believe that they got much out of being part of the Eurozone.
All customers will be limited to withdrawing €300 a day to prevent everyone fleeing with their savings. There'll also be a ban on cashing cheques and restrictions on how much money you can travel outside Cyprus with. The controls will remain in place for an initial 7 days, but they'll almost certainly be renewed and are likely to last for months. For businesses, it eases things slightly, but not much. Vasilis Petridis runs a company called Cosmos Trading. He says things have been tough.
We have many customers who are desperate for our products, and we had to make a conscious decision to convert these people to cash. Although previously they were on credit terms, we have to conserve our cash. We have payrolls, we have suppliers, we have expenses, so not knowing when the banks would open doesn't leave us much choice but to take the safe route and collect cash whenever possible.
Peter Drusiostis is the president of the National Federation of Cypriots in the UK. This evening, he'll be chairing a meeting of London's Cypriot community to discuss the financial climate in Cyprus and to come up with ways to help struggling Cypriots back home.
People are generally shocked and dismayed, disappointed really by the way in which the rescue by the Eurozone authorities has been completely mismanaged, and that I think remains the main view of the community here in the UK. I mean, that is our view, that is the perception of our community. Having said that, we now want to move on, and it's important that Cyprus restores, trust and confidence in the system. So I hope that the measures that they will take will enable them to do so.
It's the first time capital controls have been introduced in a Eurozone country. 08459 455 555. I dedicate the next song to Paul Scoins. song. We've had some good songs this morning, haven't we? 08459 455 555. Let's go to our traffic lady in distress, Sophie Tyler.
Beds, hearts and bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Starting on the motorway southbound on the M40, 2 lanes still closed following a serious accident involving a lorry and a car between 9 at Bicester and 8A at Oxford. Now also Milton Keyes, Marlborough Street is partially blocked following an accident just around the A509 at Portway. And the Barnet bypass heading south at slow between Stirling Corner and Mill Hill Circus at the moment. Everything else though not looking too bad on the whole. All seems to be moving nicely on the trains as well. No problems on the departure ports. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Coming up in the next hour, would you be prepared to take in a relative to live in your home if they were mentally ill? Well, I'll be speaking to a Bedford woman who says her family is being torn apart by her brother who has paranoid schizophrenia. That's after the news with Serena Farrow.
Getting beds, hearts and bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning, the headlines. Not enough support for Bedfordshire family. The Police and Crime Commissioner for Hertfordshire comes under fire. And are shops designed for men?
BBC Three Counties Radio.
A Bedford woman says she's not getting enough support with her mentally ill brother who's living with the family. Kirsty Wilson says the local authorities just aren't helping out enough. Well, Marjorie Wallace is from the mental health charity SANE.
It's not the right place for a paranoid schizophrenic. He should be in a sheltered accommodation. He should have 24-hour supervision, and the family should not be exposed to that kind of pressure and also to the kind of fear that the girls are living in.
Next, and the Police and Crime Commissioner for Hertfordshire is facing criticism for his decision to stand in the upcoming County Council elections. David Lloyd's been a county councillor for nearly 15 years now, but some councillors feel he shouldn't be doing both roles. Political reporter Paul Scoynes has the details.
David Lloyd was elected as the Police and Crime Commissioner for Hertfordshire in November. He's paid £75,000 a year to do that, but also has a role on the County Council, which he hopes to continue after the elections in May. Opposition councillors say this could be a conflict of interest and that he won't be able to do both jobs justice. Lloyd says that's not true, and he's already been working effectively and fairly in both roles since he was elected.
Now, a Buckinghamshire lecturer says our high streets are struggling because men are designing the shops and what goes into them. This year, some of Britain's biggest retailers have gone out of business. Well, Gloria Moss from Bucks New University says 83% of all shoppers are women, so therefore there needs to be more emphasis on what they want. But not everyone agrees. These people in Hemel Hempstead are quite happy with the layout of shops there.
Because there's perfume, nice handbags, all near the front, which I can wander into.
I sometimes think it's been designed by someone who doesn't have children, but no, not necessarily, not that observant, I'm afraid.
Never thought about it, you just get on with it because they'll do what they want anyway.
And we'll be hearing from Dr Gloria Moss in the next half an hour on BBC Three Counties Radio. A think tank's warning more than 2 million of the poorest households in England will pay more council tax from next week. The Joseph Rowntree Foundation, which campaigns against poverty, says the average increase for a low-income family will be almost £140 a year. Ministers say they should have taken steps to protect the most vulnerable from the rises. And BBC staff will go on strike today in a protest over compulsory job losses, workload and allegations of bullying. Members of the National Union of Journalists and the Technicians Union will walk out from noon for 12 hours. Finally, Stevenage looks set to be under the caretaker management of skipper Mark Roberts once again for the trip tomorrow. Borough sit in 15th ahead of the Good Friday game against Crawley. Finally then, weather, not bad today actually, feeling a little bit warmer than yesterday. Temperatures reaching 5 degrees Celsius, 41 in Fahrenheit, dry for most of the day. There's more news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties. BBC Three Counties Radio, first for news.
This is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Lots of things to talk about that I know you'll want to have your say on, and I'll give you the contact details in a little bit. Things coming up between now and 8 o'clock include: would you be prepared to take in a relative into your home if they were mentally ill? Well, I'll be speaking to a Bedford woman who says her family is being torn apart by her brother. David Lloyd is already the Police and Crime Commissioner for Hertfordshire, but he's going to be standing in the County Council elections too. How well can you do two jobs at the same time? Well, David will be joining me in the studio to explain why he thinks he can do both jobs. And what puts you off shopping on your local high street? Is it the high car parking charges, the lack of variety? Well, one Buckinghamshire academic says it's all down to who is designing the stores. Gloria Moss will be on the show in about 20 minutes to explain why men are to blame. If you want to get in touch, you can go to facebook.com/BBC3CR, or, look, all of the lines are free, so now's an excellent time to give me a call. 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, a Bedford woman says her family is being torn apart as she's struggling to cope with her mentally ill brother living with them. Kirsty Wilson is divorced, lives with her 3 children aged 18, 15 and 10. 9 months ago, her 39-year-old brother, who has paranoid schizophrenia, arrived at her doorstep as he was homeless. Since then, she's been struggling to get help from a local authority and the mental health services. Well, Kirsty's with me now. Morning, Kirsty.
Hi.
Thank you for coming in.
Okay.
How did your brother just turned up out of the blue, did he?
Yes.
What happened?
He found me through Salvation Army. We'd lost contact for many years. I haven't seen him for over 10 years. And then because he contacted me, he then obviously acquired my address. We spoke, and he then one day just turned up. And there he was on my doorstep with his bags. Can I just say, though, my family isn't being torn apart by my brother. My brother is poorly.
Yeah.
He's ill. It's not his fault. He needs help. And for 9 months now, I have asked politely. I have asked abruptly. I have probably screamed and shouted and begged for help. Every single department that I've been given, and nobody's helping me. 1 hour a week, I receive help from the mental health team. He has a CPN who comes to visit him once a fortnight.
What's a CPN?
A community psychiatric nurse.
Okay.
And she comes once a fortnight, asks my brother how he is, and then she leaves again. I'm not saying that that's her only job description. She does many things, I'm sure, behind the scenes, but she doesn't do... the mental health team, don't do anything other than come once a week, take my brother to one of his many meetings that he has to attend, and then leave. That's it. That's the help I get. 24/7. I'm his carer. I look after him.
What help would you like in terms of helping with your brother?
Well, initially, I wanted him to receive the support that he deserved. He is ill. He does need 24-hour support. He's paranoid. He cannot go out by himself. He cannot even go to the local shop. I cannot leave my children at home because he's unpredictable, so therefore he sits in my house. We have no life. My kids' friends don't come over. My friends don't come over. He's a stranger in my home.
Paranoid schizophrenia, it's kind of a wide label. How exactly does it affect your brother?
Again, I don't understand it fully. I'm not qualified. I'm learning about this, and I have done in the 9 months that he's been at my house. He hears voices, and his voices tell him to do things, or probably say things that most people wouldn't want to hear. Most people, and it's hearing those voices that could potentially send you crazy, which is a mental health thing. How many people really truly understand it? I don't know what goes through my brother's mind. Do the mental health team know what goes through his mind? I don't know. But the fact is, he is ill. He's heavily medicated. He's unpredictable. And he deserves help. He deserves help.
You say you didn't see him for 10 years. Well, do you know what he was doing in those 10 years? Did he just disappear?
As children, and growing up with him, he was always very different from the rest of us. He was very much a loner, and I left home at a really young age, left the family, and he stayed with my mum until 13 years ago she passed away. And then he came to live with me 13 years ago. Then I moved him on into a hostel. He received some help, and he then moved into a flat of his own where it broke down. He was unable to cope with living on his own, so he then went to another hostel, and big circle really, one hostel to another hostel. He then ended up drinking, a long history of drink and drugs, becoming violent, going to prison. 5 years ago, I didn't know this then, but 5 years ago he was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and he's been from one mental unit or one mental health unit to another. So we're just going around in circles. He's never actually received the help that he should get. And even with me trying to help him, he's still not getting the help that he should get.
And how is it affecting you? And it's 3 daughters, isn't it?
No, I've got a son and 2 daughters.
Son and 2 daughters, sorry. How is it affecting you and your kids?
I've said it, and I'll say it again, it has absolutely torn my family apart.
In what way?
We have no private time. My house isn't big enough for my brother. He sleeps on my sofa in my only living area, my family room. My children don't have their friends come over anymore because maybe I'd be the same, but I've got a strange person living in my home, and their other teenage daughters are not able to come over to befriend my children, so therefore they have no social life. They don't want to go out because they don't want to leave me at home on my own. Basically, we are prisoners within our own home.
You say they don't want to leave you on your own. Are they worried that he could get violent? You say he has a history of violence in the past.
He has got violent.
Really?
Briefly, and I'm not afraid of my brother. He's ill. But when things are right for him and he's left to his own devices to sit and, not have to go out and do things, or he's not encouraged to go out and do things, he's fine. But when he's challenged to potentially try and make his life better, he cannot cope. So therefore his only defence is to act out, and I have been on the other end of that. And the mental health team have actually been at my house where he has lashed out.
Has he hit you?
No, never. But he acts in a way in which he wants to get out. He get angry, he shouts, and the mental health team have actually been there when he has done that, but they brought along a chaperone with them because they couldn't attend by themselves. But yet they could quite happily leave him with me and my children.
When you've asked the local authority and the mental health services for help, what have they said to you?
That they are providing me help.
With their brief visits?
That is their help.
Why do you think it's such a battle with them?
I have no idea. I'm aware that there's budget cuts, understaff, underpay. I don't know. I don't know what the limits are. There are definitely limits, but there is other funding available to help. I have been told about other funding available. My brother has his own special. He could have personalisation, which would actually cover the cost of support that's out there. It seems whatever options I put forward to them, they're not prepared to look into or pick up the work involved to make that happen.
And why is that? If there's a genuine fear of potential violence, and you're saying that you and your kids are kind of, living in the kitchen while he occupies the living room, why are they not helping you? Have they given you any excuses or reasons?
No. None. Not one.
What would you like to see happen? What would be your ideal situation for your family and your brother?
Well, obviously there are many issues. I have given loads of possibilities. I have housing issues. I have issues with my landlord. I have issues with my brother, and they're all kind of rolled into one now, and none of the agencies, none of the support is out there. There's no help with housing. I can't privately rent because my landlord won't give me a reference, although I deserve it. There are many other issues that's involved with this.
Do you feel let down by the local authorities?
Completely. I have absolutely no faith in any of them anymore. I mean, I heard coming up here in the car that the local authority, Bedford Borough Council, don't have me on the database. Or my brother. Well, they've rehoused him twice since he's been at my house in the 9 months that he's been there. If they don't have me or my brother on their database, how could they rehouse him? They've housed him incorrectly, so it's failed. So therefore, they do have me and my brother on their database. The mental health team, they have tried to support. They've had meetings. We've had a meeting with the carers in Bedfordshire. We've all sat in a room within Bedford Borough Council itself. So if I'm not on the database, I couldn't have sat there.
I've got the statement here from the Mental Health Services in Bedford, provided by South Essex Partnership University NHS Foundation Trust. They say because of patient confidentiality, they can't confirm or deny anything relating to this. And Bedford Borough Council say there is no information on their client database regarding your brother.
Just almost 2 weeks ago, I sat in the council offices among other people, carers in Bedfordshire, mental health services, people from Bedford Housing Aid in Bedford Borough Council itself. So if they don't have me on their database, I take it I wasn't at that meeting.
Well, Kirsty, listen, I don't know if you heard earlier on, we spoke to Marjorie Wallace from the mental health charity Sane, and we'll give you her details. If you want to use them, then that's up to you, but she seemed very keen to get in touch and to possibly help. Thank you very much for coming in. I appreciate your time. Well, there we go. 08459 455 555. We'll be talking about that a little bit more later on. Right, let's get the latest travel now, shall we? Here's Sophie Tyler.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Southbound on the M40, one lane still closed following a serious accident. A lorry and a car involved between 9 at Bicester and 8A at Oxford. Clockwise on the M25, getting reports of queuing traffic following a broken down vehicle between junction 24 at Potters Bar and 25 at the A10 for Enfield. Also slow anti-clockwise between 21 at the M1 and 20 at Kings Langley, and again between 17 at Maple Cross and 16 at the M40. Now Marlborough Street, that's heading through Milton Keynes. It is still blocked following an accident involving one car on the A509 at Portway. Just happened on the roundabout there. Everything else not too bad at the moment. Trains moving nicely at the moment, but if you spot anything, do be sure to get in touch. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much, Sophie. Right, 7:15. It's Thursday, the 28th of March. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. As you've just heard, a Bedford woman says her family is being torn apart because she's not getting enough support with her mentally ill brother, who's living with them. Councillors are against the Police and Crime Commissioner for Hertfordshire standing in the upcoming county council elections. And in sport, Watford's Nyron Nosworthy has been ruled out of tomorrow's game because of injury and having a made-up name. The weather today for Beds, Herts and Bucks. A few isolated wintry showers possible, but dry for the most part, with some bright or sunny spells. Maximum temperature is 5 degrees. Coming up, high streets in the three counties are struggling because shops and their products are designed by men, but it's women who use them. Well, that's according to one Buckinghamshire academic. She'll be joining us on the show before 7:30 to tell us more. What do you think? 08459 455 555. And also, what have you locked yourself out of? And is it possible in 2013 to lock your keys in your car? I don't think it is.
BBC Three Counties Radio. Every weekday morning from 9.
The JVS Show.
With the biggest questions.
Today on the Big Phone-In, I'm asking, would you support some dog breeds being removed from this country? Should traffic wardens be more lenient? Would the government be right to drop the minimum price for alcohol?
And the biggest opinions.
I think the tax is completely unfair.
It doesn't matter how old they are or how young they are. They're still your children.
It doesn't matter whether it's male or female or what. I'm disgusted with the people. You should have cut them people off.
The JVS Show.
Weekdays from 9.
On BBC Three Counties Radio.
We're discussing being locked out of things. On Monday it was things you've been locked in because of, or trapped in because of the poor lady that was stuck in a lift in a hotel and missed her flight. More on that story later, by the way. Well, today, Sophie Tyler, our travel expert, has been locked out of her home. And there's nobody who's going to be in the house until Monday. So she's got a really bad Easter weekend coming up. I'm asking, what have you been locked out of? I have been locked out of my house more times than I care to remember. Locked out of cars, and then that got us into, can you lock your keys in your car anymore? I don't think it's possible, is it? In a fairly modern car. Trevor's in Radlett. Trevor, you can't do it anymore, can you?
Morning, Ian.
Morning.
Yeah, easier now than you could before.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I just turned that off.
What on earth have you got? What on earth was that? Have you got a children's toy there with you?
That's another phone.
Oh, blimey.
Yeah, the thing is with a lot of these new alarm systems, especially the Cat 1 alarm systems, you have auto-arm.
Yeah, right.
So if you forget to arm the car, it will arm it, and because your central locking's wired into it, it will lock it.
When you say arm the car...
Yeah, the alarm system.
Oh, okay, right, sorry. Yes, I thought... Okay, right, yeah. So so the keys get locked in, but you don't have the little thing that you put down in the door anymore, the little switch?
No, that's it. You can still get in them if you know what you're doing, but it is awkward.
Oh, hang on, if you know what you're doing. I'm guessing you can't use the old coat hanger trick anymore.
On some of them you still can, but
Right.
if you look at a lot of them, they've been rounded off and smoothed to stop you doing that.
Oh, blimey.
But, because my neighbour's little boy got locked in the back of the car in the summer in his car seat.
Oh, no. How old?
I think at the time he was about 14 months.
Oh, no! I'm laughing. That's terrible.
But, but she put her keys on the parcel shelf and she was getting the shopping out. She shut the boot, and as soon as she shut the boot, all the doors locked. But luckily the deadlocks didn't cut in, because then you won't get in it. You have to break a window.
Oh, dear. Trevor, listen, thank you very much indeed. OK, well, it turns out I'm wrong. You can lock your keys in the car. 08459 455 555. My daughter shut my keys in my car, says Kaz from Welwyn Garden City on the text. We've got a 4x4. She wanted something from the boot, which is glass, lifts up and the door swings open. She flicked the button for the boot, opened it all, rested keys in the boot, found what she wanted, shut the door, then slammed the glass down and realised the keys were still inside. She had to get the rescue people out as it was on holiday. I've shut the front door twice with no keys, and if the bolts are not thrown, it's easy to break in again. It's scary. It's very easy to open front doors. If you've not done the bolt, always do the bolt. I could break into your house. Here's the thing. I bought a car last week. Why do they say 5 doors? It's a 5-door car. No, it's not. Where's the 5th door? Oh, you mean the boot. It's 4 doors with a boot. I hate that. Yeah, it's got 5 doors. No, it doesn't. It doesn't have 5 doors at all. Muppet. Now, you may have been put off going to your local high street because you do your shopping online, or there's not enough variety of stores, or maybe it costs too much to park. Well, a Buckinghamshire academic claims our high streets are struggling because of men. It's because they design the shops and what goes in them, and that's putting women off. Well, it's been a very difficult year already for many retailers, with HMV, Jessops and Blockbusters all going into administration. Dr Gloria Moss from Bucks New University says there needs to be more emphasis on what women want because they shop more. Well, we'll speak to her in a couple of minutes, but before then, Justin Dealey has been in Hemel asking shoppers what puts them off shopping on the high street.
They're all the same, so I could go to Watford, I could go up to London, but they're all the same.
It's too samey for you. What about the design? As a lady, do you think the design of shops is appealing to you?
Oh, yes. Yes, I can walk into Marks and Sparks and be quite happy. British Home Stores. John Lewis is very nice because you've got the perfumes at the front.
So you don't think that design, then, is too manly? You wouldn't think it's been designed by a man?
No, I wouldn't. No, because there's perfume, nice handbags, all near the front, which I can wander into.
Now, Kate, you're from Berkhamsted. Does anything put you off your local high street in Berkhamsted?
No, it's a really nice high street. I think just because it's a small town, there, after a while, you kind of go into the same shops repeatedly, so it's nice to have a change. But
okay,
no,
so you're happy with that. What about Hemel High Street? What puts you off Hemel Hempstead High Street?
Just probably the shops are slightly different and they're not as nice as the ones in Berkhamsted. So, although the actual pedestrianised bit in Hemel is great because I've got 2 small children, so one of them can run around quite safely. So,
okay, and just lastly, in terms of the Marlows in Hemel, the big shopping centre there, but there's never a point where you walk into a shop and you think, oh, here we go, this has clearly been designed by a man. You never thought that once?
Oh, I sometimes think it's been designed by someone who doesn't have children, but no, not necessarily, not that observant, I'm afraid.
Right, 2 ladies here. Madam, in terms of your local high street, we're here in Hemel today, what puts you off your local high street?
Having a lot of shops closed down, which Hemel does, because people shopping online now, and it's just miserable to go in there and find sort of half the shops closed down.
Okay, and Madam, what about yourself? What puts you off Hemel High Street?
Nothing. I quite like Hemel High Street. It's St Albans. I can't stop.
Got to gripe about it. Very, very quickly, the actual design of the shops, would you say, as a lady, that the design of those shops is not appealing to you?
Never thought about it. You just get on with it because they'll do what they want anyway. So.
Okay. And yourself?
Same for me.
Well, that was Justin Dealey speaking to shoppers in Hemel. Joined now by 2 guests. We have Ionna Carter, is the director of the shopper research agency Shopper Centric. Good morning, Ionna.
Good morning.
And but before that, let's talk to Dr Gloria Moss, who is a reader in management and marketing at Buckinghamshire New University. Good morning, Doctor.
Hi, good morning, Ian.
The problem with the high street is they're all designed by men?
Well, I wouldn't put it quite like that, but the decline in our high street is absolutely appalling. We've got 1 in 9 shops in the UK closed. 20 shops close every day. there's a clear decline in the popularity of the high street. And if we're going to reverse this negative trend, it's essential to acknowledge the absolutely dominating role that women play in shopping. They buy more than 80% of goods. So what we really need to do is, like you've been doing, interviewing women, is actually focus on what women want in the high street.
But so what do they want that they're not getting now? And it's men's fault?
No, I wouldn't say it's men's fault. It's nobody's fault in that sense. It's a complex web of factors that we need to consider. But there's a factor that it cries out for attention, and that is that think shopping, you think women.
Well, I don't know if I do, Doctor. I was in my high street at the weekend, and I don't think it was predominantly women that were there.
Well, that may be the day that you went, but statistics reveal that the women are the majority of shoppers. The estimates vary, but between 70 and 80%.
Well, let's ask her.
Are bought by women.
Let me ask Iona Carter. Iona, is that true?
I think we are still in the day at the moment where you could quite safely say that the majority of shopping is still done by women. But I have to say that we do see that is beginning to change as our lifestyles change, and more working mothers nowadays. The division of responsibility in the household is beginning to change, and men are starting to, have done for some time, if I'm honest, sort of take more of their fair share of the grocery shopping, but also, sort of doing their own shopping as well. And as those younger men in particular start to come through and become the big spenders within society, then I think that will actually start to change. We did some research a year or so ago which showed that around about half, or just over half actually, of men said that they shop whatever they're shopping for, but they actually go to the shops for something every couple of days. So they're certainly not sitting at home anymore, but I think, at this moment in time, probably the balance still is in favour of us women.
So, Dr. Gloria, Moss, what are you saying about the design of shops, then, that they should be more feminine?
Well, what I'm saying is something is happening at an unconscious level. I've done a number of experiments over a large number of years in which I've compared the preferences of men and women for all sorts of different kinds of design, be it websites, be it graphic design, product design, retail interiors. And what you find consistently is that, by and large, and there will always be exceptions from men and women, but by and large, what he likes is different from what she likes. And a lot of the time, he is doing the actual designing for the woman. And he tends to like straight lines, little detail, few colours. She likes the opposite. She likes round shapes, lots of detail, lots of colours. And what we have is really hunter vision, because men's visual spatial abilities are actually different from women's. So we have hunter vision on the one hand, and we have what I like to call gatherer vision on the other, because the differences in how men and women see their visual spatial abilities has evolved over hundreds of thousands of years of hunting and gathering. So he, and all those jokes about she can't park are absolutely right. He has a better 3D rotational visual skills than she has, and she has better colour vision than he has. So there are these strong differences.
Iona, do you think that stores are laid out in favour of men? I always thought that the interior design was done by women or gay men.
Well, it's quite subtle. These differences are subtle, but the results in the experiments show very clearly and consistently that he prefers the designs that men produce and she prefers the designs that women.
Let me put that point to Iona. Iona, would you agree with that?
I think I definitely agree with the points that Gloria was making around the fact that men and women have different preferences and they shop very differently, partially as a result of that. I mean, we've called men the guided missiles of the shopping world in the past. They are very purposeful and they do like things to be fairly simple and whatever. I'm not sure, if I'm honest, that I agree 100% with the idea that the design of stores is something that is, is putting women off necessarily. I mean, we heard our people over there down in Hemel talking about how, so they're not necessarily noticing it, though of course, so some of these things will operate at the subliminal level. But I think if you consider certain environments, somebody was mentioning there the perfume halls, and if you look at if you take somewhere like Selfridges, for example, I mean, they are very, very, department stores in particular can be very female-led environments, the lines of vision and so on. And what we found in our research, in fact, is that a lot of men are saying that, in fact, that what puts them off shopping when they are put off shopping is the fact that things aren't simple enough, that there has to be too much of this sort of, looking around before they actually get to the point of actually finding, which is why a lot of men are men have led the online trend. Of course, us women have followed on very quickly afterwards nowadays, but, we found something a little bit different in our research, but I think there's truth in both sides.
Jonna, thank you very much. We have to end it there. Jonna Carter, Director of shopper research agency Shoppercentric. And before that, you heard Dr. Gloria Moss, who is a reader in management and marketing at Buckinghamshire New University. By the way, Dr. Gloria Moss used the phrase Hunter Vision. If anybody were to release a film called Hunter Vision, I would so go and see that. Doesn't it sound wonderful? There must be one from the 80s on a VHS somewhere. Here's the travel news now with Sophie Tyler.
Beds, hearts and bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Southbound on the M40, one lane still closed following a serious accident. A lorry and a car involved, between 9 at Bicester and 8A at Oxford. Clockwise on the M25, also reports of queuing traffic still following the earlier broken down vehicle between 24 at Potters Bar and 25 at Enfield. Anti-clockwise, also slow where you'd expect, between 21 at the M1 and 20 at Kings Langley, and also again between 17 at Maple Cross and 16 at the M40. Now the Barnet bypass is also slow queuing at the moment, heading south between Stirling Corner and Mill Hill Circus, and the A405 North Orbital Road also heavy around the M25 junction 21A roundabout. Everything else not too bad, trains moving nicely at the moment. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much, Sophie. 08459 455 555 is the phone number. Let's get the latest news and sport now with Serena.
Getting beds, hearts and bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. A Bedford woman says her family's been torn apart because she's not getting enough support with her mentally ill brother who's living with them. Elsewhere, councillors are against the Police and Crime Commissioner for Hertfordshire standing in the upcoming County Council elections. And we'll be hearing from David Lloyd shortly. A think tank's warning more than 2 million of the poorest households in England will pay more council tax from next week. And as we've just been hearing, a lecturer from Buckinghamshire says our high streets are struggling. It's all because men are designing the shops and what goes into them. That's the news. Now let's turn to all the morning sport.
Beds, hearts and bucks sport.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
So starting with the Championship, and Watford will check on the fitness of several players after international duty. That's ahead of tomorrow's home game against former manager Sean Dyche's Burnley. But defender Nyron Nosworthy's definitely missing after suffering an ankle injury playing for Jamaica. Simon Oxley has the details.
Nosworthy's injury could mean a return for Fit Again Fit's Hall, with manager Gianfranco Zola waiting on leading scorer Matej Vidra, who scored twice for the Czech Republic on Tuesday, new Jamaican international Lloyd Doyley, and England under-21 midfielder Nathaniel Chalabar. Key midfielder Alman Abdi could also be fit to return. Zola has often rested players after internationals, but with so much at stake, will he do so again?
Let's look at the other local games then for tomorrow. And Mark Roberts will remain in charge of Stevenage for the trip to Crawley. They're in 15th position. And Milton Keynes Dons make the long trip to Hartlepool with striker Isali McLeod an injury doubt. Elsewhere in League 2, Wickham host Accrington at Adams Park. And let's turn to Milton Keynes Lightning there. The chairman says everything will be done to make the ice hockey team's temporary move to Coventry as painless as possible. The club's junior teams may move to Oxford. Vito Rosa hosted a fans forum this week ahead of the refurbishment of the rink in MK.
It's going to have an impact, no question about it. But at the same time, we think many of our fans will make the travel up to Coventry from Milton Keynes. We're going to be laying on coaches, and we're going to try and make it as easy as we possibly can.
Finally, tennis, and Andy Murray plays Marin Cilic in the quarterfinals of the Miami Masters tonight. Now he'll replace Roger Federer as the world number 2 if he wins the tournament. His coach Ivan Lendl has put his improvement down to being able to cope mentally.
He's taking care of matches a bit easier at times, he also is steadier in his results and doesn't seem to have as many downs as he did before, and I'm pleased with that.
BBC Three Counties Radio. There'll be more from me at 8.
Ivan.
Did I say... What did I say?
You said Ivan. It's Ivan.
Oh, I did say Ivan, yeah.
This is the only sports name I know how to say. Ivan.
That's true.
Yeah.
It's like a van. I have to think of like a car-derived van, don't I? Like a tranny van or something like that.
A tranny van?
Yeah, my dad has one. I love a tranny van.
I don't even want to go there.
Across beds, hearts and bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
There's an image for you at 7:30 in the morning. Morning, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, David Lloyd is already the Police and Crime Commissioner for Hertfordshire, but he's going to be standing in the County Council elections too. How well can you do two jobs at the same time? Well, David will be joining me in the studio to explain why he thinks he can do both jobs. And do you remember on Tuesday, it was Tuesday, was it? We told you about a woman who'd missed her flight to Turkey because she got stuck in a hotel lift for an hour and a half. Well, we've spoken to the hotel, and I believe that things may have progressed slightly. As I've said before, I am the new Jonathan Vernon Smith. This is the new Consumer Show. 08459 455 555. Now, the Police and Crime Commissioner for Hertfordshire is facing criticism for his decision to stand in the upcoming county council elections. David Lloyd has been a Conservative county councillor for nearly 15 years, but will stand down from his job as a borough councillor in May. However, opposition parties and members of the public say the PCC job is too big to do part-time. Here's what some residents in Markyate told us.
Well, I suppose it depends on how well he's doing his job and whether he can make the meetings and things like that by doing two jobs.
No, he should just do the one job. We need the police just to do their job. There's so much crime, it needs just to be the police job. The way the country is at the moment, I think the policing is a big thing. And I think that's what he should be there for. So he shouldn't be devoting some of his time to something else.
David Lloyd is joining me in the studio. You heard the lady there. It's a big job, the PCC. You shouldn't be devoting your time to something else.
Well, I'm flattered that they see how large a job it is, and I think the first month or so, the first 3 months that I've been doing it, people have seen me around. I've been here quite a few times talking about the role, but all that time I've been functioning as a county council as well, and I think doing it quite well. Certainly this morning I was picking up a text on secondary transfer and how I can help with that, and I will be helping that couple make sure they get their child into the right school, as I have done for the last many years. Really, the real reason for wanting to do the two together is that I find it really important that an area like Hertfordshire is pulled together along with what we do in policing so that we can get better delivery of services. And you know that, for example, I have recently appointed the Chief Fire Officer, a County Council officer, to be my Chief Executive, because I think this is about working closely together. And unusually, Hertfordshire, most constabularies, Bedfordshire, for instance, Thames Valley, for instance, that the upper tier authority doesn't cover exactly the same borders. Hertfordshire does, and I think that's a unique opportunity, and that I should take it to ensure that we get even better policing.
There have been comments that you will possibly give preferential treatment to your area.
Well, I'm sure that, and I think Sharon Taylor, the Labour leader, has said something like that. And I'm very pleased that she recognises how hard I work for local residents and for those very people in Markyate. I think, she recognises how well I work for them. But, of course, I have no executive responsibility. I can't take any decisions myself which are going to commit the County Council to doing something. I, like Sharon, am just another backbench member of the County Council. But what I can do is ensure that we're working properly together.
In other areas, the PCC and his deputy in Humberside, for example, were both councillors. They've stood down after their council voted in a motion saying that it wasn't right.
Yeah. And you see, there is no Humberside Council, and this is the point I'm making. In Humberside, they were members actually of East Yorkshire Council, which is a part of 6 or 7 different councils which make up the Humberside Constabulary. Hertfordshire, the Constabulary and the Upper Tier Authority, the County Council, are exactly the same area. And so that is a very different prospect, because there isn't a suggestion that actually you are an East Yorks man rather than a Hull man. I'm a Hertfordshire man through and through, and I'll continue to fight for the residents of Hertfordshire to ensure that crime remains very, very low in this county.
We mentioned Sharon Taylor. Let me read you what Stephen Giles Medhurst, leader of the Lib Dem group on Herts County Council, has said. I'm disappointed David's not standing down as a county councillor. Quite clearly clearly I'd assume, as I expect the voters who did vote for him would, that the job of Police and Crime Commissioner was a full-time role. Considering the county meetings are during the day, he would need to miss either those or vital PCC work. He can't be in two places at once, and he's earning around £70,000 a year as PCC, so not sure why he wants to do anything else. What would you say to Stephen?
Well, I'm very interested because, of course, Stephen's reflecting on what he used to do. He used to turn up to county council meetings in the morning. He used to run off to the job that he was doing on a full-time basis in the afternoon. I've never done that. I've always managed my diary properly. And actually, what we're talking about isn't 5 days a week in the county council. I will be a backbench county councillor. I will ensure that I turn up to full council meetings and to the other committees I'm on. But because this role representing people is a full-time role, I think you will admit that I'm in here very frequently at 7
we can't get rid of you. Every
morning.
morning you're turning up trying to get in.
I'm here at 7 in the morning. I work all the way through to 11 at night. Like many people, I will have a full-time role and will also be able to be a very effective county councillor. And I have to say that I'm surprised that Stephen feels that people have to be full-time county councillors and give up their job, given the fact that he didn't do that, which I think is rather hypocritical.
Can I read you a text from Pat?
Yes.
It's a little bit rude.
Oh, I'm always pleased to hear rude text.
David Lloyd should be allowed to stand for the county council, but he should resign as a PCC because that role is supposed to be non-political. While he's in the role as a PCC, he's not committing a fraudulent act knowing he got the role... Sorry, is he not committing a fraudulent act knowing he got the role as a Conservative? He seems to be either a greedy man, given his jobs, or naively stupid. So which are you, greedy or stupid?
Well, neither. What I am is someone who believes in putting Hertfordshire first and foremost. I think it really is, people don't understand the role of PCC, and I think that I've established that over the first few months. Clearly, I was elected proudly as a Conservative. Clearly, many of my policies are policies which you would expect someone who has that tradition to come up with.
But it is supposed to be a non-political role, isn't it, the PCC?
The role of PCC is not non-political. No, that is a misunderstanding.
Right.
That's why you stand, or some people have stood for political parties and been elected on that, so it can't possibly be non-political on that basis. But what I reiterate is the pledge that I made at the outset to serve everyone without fear. And actually, that's exactly the same pledge that I privately make for all of my constituents as a county councillor. I serve everyone. I don't look at how they voted because, frankly, that isn't what worries me. What worries me is that I get the job done.
You're releasing your police and crime plan today.
I am indeed.
One of the things you mentioned before was charging people to stay in prisons. How far are you with that?
Well, that's part of the whole broad thrust that the criminal should pay rather than you and I having to pay for what they have done. And we still have in there that the criminal should pay. And that works through in all sorts of areas, whether or not that's the person having to pay in cells overnight, and if we can bring that in, we will. But actually that also is around if someone injures a police officer, that they should not only have to pay for the criminal injury, but they should also pay for the replacement police officer whilst that officer's off duty. I think that's one of the really positive things that has come out of the plan, and it's amazing how many people have been supportive of the fact that the criminal pays rather than the taxpayer.
Any other ideas in the plan that we should be excited about?
I think that it's a very exciting plan. There are 4 broad themes. One is that criminal offender pays. One is around ensuring that we have greater business sense in what we're doing. One is building on where we already are, which is one of the safest places in the country to live and work. But the most important one is putting the victim at the heart of everything we do and making sure that we really get up and running with this customer care, so that if you are the victim of a crime, if you're really unlikely to be the victim of the crime, but if you are, that you get first-class service, which I think already you're getting, but I really want to keep pushing and pushing and pushing on that.
Going back to this issue of having 2 jobs, you say you can cope with it. Even if you can cope with it, are you not worried that the public perception, such as Pat's, is that you can't and that you are being greedy? Do you not worry that people might not see it as you see it?
Yes, of course I worry about that, because clearly I want people to realise, A, how hard I'm working, and B, why I'm doing it. Because unfortunately there are, and that is the yaboo of party politics, but there are some cynics out there who are trying their utmost to find a reason that I shouldn't continue doing what I'm doing. And I think that's really very sad, because actually the reason that I'm doing it is I think that I will be a far more effective police and crime commissioner if I've also got a foot in the camp of the county council, because the way that we deliver the reduction in crime is through partner working, and probably the biggest partner with which we work is going to be the county council.
David, thank you very much for coming in.
Thanks, Ian.
It's lovely to see you, David Lloyd. 08459 455 555. You heard David's robust defence of his position. What do you think? Do you think that... have you got 2 jobs? How easy is it to do? I'm shattered after just doing 3 hours work. For goodness sakes, I couldn't do anything like that. 08459 455 555. 7:44, here's the travel with Sophie Tyler.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good news, first of all, heading south on the M40, all lanes have been reopened and the accident has been cleared around junction 9 at Bicester. Now, southbound, though, on the M1, one lane is blocked with delays following an accident. 2 cars involved between 12 at Flitwick and the Toddington services. And clockwise, also getting reports at the moment on the M25 of queuing traffic following a broken down vehicle between 24 at Potters Bar and 25 at the A10 for Enfield. Now, Marlow Hill, that's the A404 heading north through High Wycombe, also looking slow and partially blocked following an accident. A car and a bike involved just around at Barracks Road. Police are at the scene at the moment. Everything else not looking too bad at the moment. Trains are still moving nicely on the departure boards. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Sophie, thank you very much indeed. Right, 7:45 exactly. It's Thursday the 28th of March. I'm Iain Lee and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. A Bedford woman says her family is being torn apart because she's not getting enough support with her mentally ill brother who's living with them. Hertfordshire's Police and Crime Commissioner is set to stand in the upcoming county council elections because he wants to pull together all the different services in the country. In the county, I do apologise. And in sport, Watford's defender Nyron Nosworthy is out of tomorrow's game because of injury. Coming up, do you remember on Tuesday we told you about a woman who'd missed her flight to Turkey because she got stuck in a lift for an hour and a half? Well, she was very upset. Holiday was ruined. We've spoken to the hotel. We might have some interesting news for Lynn Larson. I don't know what this is. I haven't been told yet. We'll find out before 8 o'clock. But now let's get the weather. Here's Elizabeth Rossini.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Well, if you look up, you might just see a bit of blue sky. There's certainly lots of lovely sunshine out there this morning. I don't think it will last long into the afternoon. I think it is going to turn cloudier, so do enjoy it while it's still there. Now, temperatures are below freezing at the moment. They'll rise slowly through the course of the day, all the way to the rather dizzy heights of between 4 and 6 degrees Celsius in Stevenage, Milton Keynes, Luton, and in High Wycombe as well. That's just 43 in Fahrenheit. It's still going to be bitterly cold, and it will feel mighty chilly as soon as we get the cloud cover back as well. Now, the northeasterly wind, it's still there, it's still bitter, but it is slightly lighter than we've been seeing over the last couple of days, so a bit of good news there. And it will drop a touch further into this evening and overnight, so we can expect to see a severe frost into tomorrow. Temperatures widely down to -3, -4 degrees Celsius, lots of clear skies as well. Now, all the while, we do run the risk of seeing just 1 or 2 very light wintry flurries, really not amounting to very much, just a bit of icing, sugar dusting perhaps through tonight and possibly into tomorrow morning as well. I think a cloudier picture tomorrow. Again, a bit of brightness around at times, still feeling cold. In fact, it's looking similar for the rest of the Easter bank holiday weekend. So, yeah, Good Friday, Easter Saturday, Easter Sunday, Easter Monday, all much the same. It's going to be mostly dry, but it will feel bitterly cold. That's the forecast.
Thanks very much, Elizabeth.
We're bringing you a host of sporting treats this Easter weekend on Three Counties Sport. On Friday, there's a feast of football as Watford are at home to Burnley.
Cassetti touching on, and it's poked all over the line by Fernando Forestieri.
MK Dons travel north to face Hartlepool.
Gleeson Megan on the end of it, Gleeson Dons! 2-0 to the Dons!
And Stevenage make the trip to Crawley.
Curls it in, oh, it's gone in! Freeman from the free kick.
Good Friday, great football. Three Counties Sport, Friday from 2 on BBC Three Counties Radio. Well, we just had David Lloyd in, the Police and Crime Commissioner, and he's up for 2 jobs, working on the council and being the PCC. Well, what do you think about that? Jean's in Stevenage. Morning, Jean.
Good morning.
Jean, you heard David Lloyd there. He seemed to put forward a rather strong defence of his position, I thought.
Defending him, I'm not.
No. I said that he put forward a very strong defence. Yes. Yes.
No, right. I believe that he should not be up for county council again, and surely, and I applaud to the people of Hertfordshire not to vote him in, because in the area I live in, Stevenage, since Christmas, we've had 54 burglaries.
Right.
And he should be concentrating on the police and the crime. And I'm also sure that the only reason he got voted in November was because it doesn't matter who I talk to. In November, well, we didn't vote because we didn't know enough about it. The government pushed it through too quick. People didn't know anything about the police commissioner or what they were voting for.
Jean, in all fairness, if you've been listening to BBC Three Counties Radio, I know that Roberto did several specials about it. We mentioned it quite a lot on this show. So the information was out there. You didn't get the leaflets through your doors, but the information was there.
Yeah, but not everybody listens to it.
I know. Tell me about it. I've seen the figures.
This is the problem, and we didn't have enough time. But I really, really think that people should vote on their feet, and this David Lloyd should concentrate on being the police commissioner and give up the council.
You think he's being greedy?
I do think he's being very greedy.
He gets, for being the police and crime commissioner, he gets £75,000 a year.
So that's, I mean, some people don't get that in 10 years.
Jean, thank you very much indeed. 08459 455 555. What do you think? His defence seems very robust to me. Time will tell whether he can do both jobs. What do you think? Is he being greedy? Should he just focus on one job, or do you think he can handle both? 08459 455 555. And there were complaints that there wasn't that much information about the elections, but I do know that here, if you're listening to BBC Three Counties Radio, we covered it, some might say, a little bit too much detail. I don't know. We covered it on this show a lot, and Roberto, I listened to several debates that Roberto had for all of the various the regions. So the information was out there, and leaflets weren't posted through the doors, but the information was there if you looked for it. So I'm not sure if that argument necessarily stands. 08459 455 555. What's your thought on that? Now, earlier this week, incredible story we told you about a couple from Wales who missed their flight to Turkey because they got stuck in a lift in Luton. Well, this morning we have an update from the hotel responsible. It was the Ibis Hotel at Luton Airport, wasn't it, Justin?
Yep, that's the one, Ian. It was quite a controversial story. This happened on Monday morning. The Ibis Hotel, which is right next door to Luton Airport. This was Lynn Larson and her husband. They travelled from Wales, so they wouldn't oversleep the next morning, and they could be near to Luton Airport to get their flight. They were flying out to Istanbul. It was an early morning flight, so they'd gone to the hotel the night before. They got their suitcases, they were going down to reception, they were going to check out, and then they were off to the airport for their holiday. And this is when disaster struck, because they missed their flight because the lift jammed and they were stuck in that lift for 90 minutes. It was a terrible ordeal for them, and I spoke to Lynn when she had just come out of the lift.
Well, we missed it because we were stuck in the lift in the Ibis Hotel at Luton Airport for an hour and a half.
Must have been quite scary in there for an hour and a half.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I felt quite panicky, you know.
And where have you travelled from to be here today?
We live in North Wales, so we travelled down yesterday to stay in this airport so we could get our flight, because the flight was leaving at 6 in the morning. But we were stuck in the lift from about 4:15 till about 5:45.
So now you've missed your flight, what's going to happen next?
Well, we've missed our holiday, and we've also booked an internal flight in Turkey. Well, a few internal flights, so we've missed all of them, and hotels we've booked, so I'm just hoping the insurance will cover it. But obviously we were looking forward to having a holiday as well.
I mean, it's quite an unusual situation. Just explain how you feel right now. You must feel angry.
I do, yes. I feel disappointed and I feel angry, but it's a bit... Somehow surreal at the moment.
It's just happened, you can't quite take it in.
You know, I can't believe this has happened to me.
And when you spoke to EasyJet, what did they say about it?
Well, the woman said, I've heard all excuses why people have missed their planes, but I've never heard that one before.
But it's absolutely genuine.
Yes. And there were another couple in the lift with us, and I don't know if they managed to get their flight. They were going to Marrakesh.
Justin, you said something that confused me. You said you spoke to her just after she left the lift.
Yes.
What were you doing there? Just loitering by a lift at 5 o'clock in the morning?
I was actually at Luton Airport on Monday.
Right.
Talking about another controversial story, that doctor who said that people should be charged by their pound to travel. So we were getting reaction from people who were going to be travelling. Clearly, Lynn didn't travel. Some people may be asking the question, well, why couldn't she go later in the day? She couldn't get another flight to Istanbul until Saturday, and of course she'd have had to pay the money out as well. So that's why her holiday was effectively ruined. But so many people have been asking me about this week because it's such an unusual story. People often miss flights because they're stuck in traffic or they oversleep, but very rarely do you hear of anybody who's missed their flight, who's missed their holiday because they've been stuck in a lift.
Well, Justin, just stay there for 1 second, please, because Lynn Larson is on the line now. Good morning, Lynn.
Good morning.
Lynn, just try and describe again how you felt when you realised you weren't going to get out of that lift in time and you were going to miss your flight.
Well, I was disappointed about missing the holiday because we've been looking forward to it for a long time and planning it. But I was also just worried about actually getting out of the lift at the time.
You could have had to stay in there forever. Well, Lynn, Justin has some news. Justin, what's the latest on this?
Yes, we've got an update here from the Ibis Hotel. Now, they say the general manager of the hotel is liaising directly with the guests to assess all the details of their trip and the costs involved. The hotel will then take the appropriate action in terms of reparation. Now, we've also had a word with the general manager ourselves, and he's told us that he's spoken to the guest, that's Lynn, who's on the line right now, and apologised as well. He said they were getting together a list of expenses and the hotel will look at where they can compensate. So clearly they are looking at this, saying, well, this did happen, and they're trying to hopefully come up with some sort of offer for Lynn.
It's not quite as good as news as I was expecting. Lynn, have the hotel apologised to you?
They spoke to my husband yesterday and they did apologise and they took responsibility for what has happened, and they said they would pay back any costs which we have already incurred towards the holiday.
Are you happy with that?
Well, I'm not completely happy because even if we get all our money back we've already paid, we've still missed out on the holiday. And I think we should have some kind of goodwill gesture on top of that.
Well, I know that JVS, this is where JVS and I differ. He doesn't do compensation, and I think that's his downfall, because I agree. I'm taking off my impartial BBC hat. I totally agree. You should get everything that you spent, and then some as well. But Justin, they've given no hint of that. They are just saying it's going to be the expenses that she's incurred.
That's what they're saying at this moment in time. I suppose what they may well do is offer those expenses back, and they say, as a goodwill gesture, would you like to stay in the Ibis Hotel in Luton once again?
Well, Lynn, would you ever stay in the Ibis again?
I'm not sure. I doubt if I'd use the lift. I was happy with the hotel otherwise, but not the lift, you know.
This is what they should be doing, right? They should give you all the money you've spent. They should negotiate with your employers to get you a paid week off work, and they should fly you out to Turkey for a week, all expenses paid. I don't know what you're giggling for, Dealey. I think that's perfect.
If you were running a business, you'd be out of business in a week, wouldn't you?
Well,
these deals.
This is why my holiday hotel company did fold several years ago. That's why. Well, listen, it's lovely to speak to you. We'll keep following this, and do keep us informed of any developments, won't you?
I will, yeah.
Lynn, thank you very much indeed. And Justin, you know, do you not think, though, for them to say, oh, yeah, well, we'll cover your expenses, they've probably taken time off work. They were all... that excitement you get when you know you've got a holiday. 5 more sleeps till my holiday. And then that's snatched away from you, Justin.
As you get stuck in a lift. I mean, it's not for me to say what they should and what they shouldn't be doing, but clearly...
Grow a pair. Grow a pair and say...
It's a highly unusual situation. I don't think ever the Ibis Hotel would have come across this before. Somebody staying in their hotel off to Luton Airport and then they get stuck in a lift. I'm sure if it was a more common complaint they would deal with it a lot quicker, but with this it's just so unusual. Let's see what they do. You never know, over the weekend they might make more progress again.
Justin, whereabouts are you off to now?
I'm in St Albans, so yes, whatever you want me to do I should do for you.
Well, could you get me a fried egg sandwich and a cup of coffee?
Yes, I can do that, yes.
Excellent stuff. Speak to you later on. Thank you very much indeed. If you want to hear the official BBC Three Counties consumer show, then listen to Jonathan Vernon-Smith. He's on between 9 and 12. His consumer hour starts at 11. I would just warn Jonathan to be careful that there's a new consumer king in town, and this bad boy goes for compo.
Beds, hearts and bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Southbound on the M1, one lane is blocked with queuing traffic following an accident. 2 cars involved near junction 12 at Flitwick, with congestion back towards junction 13 at Bedford at the moment. Anti-clockwise on the M25, also looking at delays of around 20 minutes between 17 at Maple Cross and 16 at the M40. While heading north on the A404, that's Marlow Hill through High Wycombe, still looking slow and partially blocked following an accident involving a car and a bike just around Barracks Road. And Watton Road in Nebworth also partially blocked. Hazardous driving conditions there following an accident, and lots of ice between Nebworth and Hertford Road. Everything else not looking too bad actually at the moment. Trains still moving fairly nicely on the departure boards. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Sophie. Coming up in the next hour, would you be prepared to take in a relative into your home if they were mentally ill? Well, we're going to hear the story, more on the story of a Bedford woman who says her family's being torn apart because of lack of support for her and her brother.
Getting beds, hearts and bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning, it's 8 o'clock. I'm Serena Farrow. The headlines: Bedfordshire mum desperate for help with mentally ill brother, calls to delay NHS telephone advice line, and Watford have several injury doubts.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
A Bedford woman says her family's been torn apart because she's not getting enough support with her mentally ill brother who's living with them. Kirsty Wilson says the local authorities aren't giving them enough help. She told Three Counties that his condition is so unstable she can't even leave her children alone with him.
He's heavily medicated and he does have mood swings, so I can't leave them. They now don't have anyone come over to the house, their friends. But at the same time, there is nowhere in my house that we can actually all sit together as a family because he's actually sleeping in our only family environment.
Now, Hertfordshire's Police and Crime Commissioner is set to stand in the upcoming county council elections because he wants to pull together all the different services in the county. David Lloyd has been a councillor now for nearly 15 years, but some councillors feel he shouldn't do both roles. He doesn't quite agree, though.
So that we can get better delivery of services. And you know that, for example, I have recently appointed the Chief Fire Officer, a County Council officer, to be my Chief Executive, because I think this is about working closely together.
In Buckinghamshire, a lecturer there says our high streets are struggling because men are designing the shops and what goes into them. This year, some of Britain's biggest retailers have gone out of business. Well, Gloria Moss from Bucks New University says 83% of all shoppers are women, and so therefore needs to be more emphasis on what they want.
He tends to like straight lines, little detail, few colours. She likes the opposite. She likes round shapes, lots of detail, lots of colours. What we have is really hunter vision, because men's visual spatial abilities are actually different from women's.
Doctor leaders are urging the NHS to delay the launch of a new non-emergency helpline. The 111 phone service, which is replacing NHS Direct, is due to go live in much of England on Monday. But the British Medical Association believes patient safety may be at risk after the system ran into severe problems during piloting. NHS managers, meanwhile, say they've taken steps to ensure the safe is safe and of high quality. Now, a couple who missed their flight from Luton Airport after getting stuck in a lift have now been told they're likely to get compensation. Lynn Larson and her husband were due to fly to Turkey on Monday for 11 days, but didn't get much further than the lift at the Ibis Hotel. Well, the hotel's told us that the manager's now in contact with Lynn and he's going to be assessing the details of their trip and all of the costs involved. Finally then, let's look at the sport, and Watford's defender Nyron Nosworthy's out of tomorrow's game because of injury. That's ahead of their home match against former manager Sean Dyche's Burnley. Weather then, and it's going to be mainly dry today, a little bit warmer than yesterday as well. Temperatures reaching 5 degrees Celsius. There's more news and sport online at bbc.co.uk/3 counties. BBC Three Counties Radio first for news.
And suddenly it's 8 o'clock in the morning. We're at the last 2 hours. Go on, this is Iain Lee, BBC Three Counties Radio, 3 minutes past 8. Just a quick heads up, I'm not in tomorrow. Helen Lee is filling in for me, and good for her. I am back on, is it called Easter Monday? I think it's called Easter Monday. Bank Holiday Monday? Maybe it's called both those things. We have a reduced team, and in discussions with my producer Laura, we have very little content on Easter Bank Holiday Monday. I'm not saying don't listen, I'm saying do listen, but have your phones on standby, because I think it's going to be led by you primarily. Anyway, we'll discuss that nearer the time. Coming up in the last hour of the show before JVS, would you be prepared to take in a relative into your home if they were mentally ill? Well, we've been hearing all morning the story of a Bedford woman who says her family is being torn apart because of lack of support for her brother, who suffers with paranoid schizophrenia. And also, Justin Dealey is on the hunt for a St Albans woman this morning. I know it sounds a little bit dodgy, don't worry. It's been reported that she earns £70,000 a year in benefits. And she says there's little point in her working. Well, we'll see if we can find her. Lots of ways to get in touch. Facebook.com/BBC3CR, or you can give me a call, 08459 455 555.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Now, we've been hearing all morning the incredible story of a Bedford woman who says her family is being torn apart as she is struggling to cope with her mentally ill brother living with them, and she's not getting enough support. Kirsty Wilson is divorced and lives with her 3 children aged 18, 15 and 10. 9 months ago, her 39-year-old brother, who has paranoid schizophrenia, came to live with them as he was homeless. Since then, she's been struggling to get help from her local authority and the mental health services. Our reporter, Victoria Cook, has been to Kirsty's home to find out how the family have been coping.
So we're in your kitchen, and this is where you and your family spend a lot of their time.
Yeah, it is, yeah. I suppose it's just an awkward situation. My brother is in the living room, obviously mental health issues, he's on medication. There are problems with that. My children don't know him, they feel afraid, they feel uncomfortable. You know, they come in from school and the first thing they do is come in the kitchen and raid the fridge like most kids, but then they don't leave. I'm cooking, they stay in here with me, you know, they sit at the table or on the table, and that's where they stay.
And this is to avoid going into the living room where your brother's sort of camped full time.
Yeah, his bedroom is my living room. He sleeps on my sofa, and, you know, 24/7, he sits there all day, he doesn't do anything, he doesn't go anywhere. The mental health offer 1 hour a week where they take him out. Sometimes they turn up, sometimes they don't, and the other however many hours there are left in a day, I'm left to deal with him.
How did life change in your house from one day it just being you and your children and life being normal, as normal can be, and from him turning up? I mean, how did things change in your house, if you can describe it?
Well, massively. I mean, he's a stranger. My children haven't seen him they haven't seen him since they were babies. I can't go out and leave my children with my brother because he's potentially unstable. He's, you know, heavily medicated, and he does have mood swings, so I can't leave them. They now don't have anyone come over to the house, they're friends. But at the same time, there is nowhere in my house that we can actually all sit together as a family, because he's actually sleeping in our only family environment. Because he lives at my house, you know, they've basically backed off and said, we will give you 1 hour a week, we will walk him to his Hearing Voices group, and basically the rest of the time you deal with it. That's not...
And your children have to deal with it too.
Absolutely, it's not acceptable.
And all under 18. And you were saying, particularly for your 15-year-old, she's in the middle of her GCSEs. It's a really sensitive time.
Yes.
This is hugely disruptive.
Oh, massively, because she's got nowhere where we've got nowhere we can sit and study. We can't, get books out because, after a certain time in the evening, because of my brother's medication, he's asleep. He's in his bedroom. This is our living room, so we're disturbing him. He's disturbing us. There is no privacy. He again listens to headphones, which we can actually hear, and it's the sound of rain, which obviously soothes in some way.
So if you do choose to go into the living room where the TV is, he's actually sitting there with headphones on, listening to the sound of rain?
Yes. It's actually been said that people that are schizophrenic, some hear voices, my brother does, and sometimes by listening to things like rain or soothing music, it can actually drown out the voices. If he is sitting there and he is hearing voices and he is drowning them out, it's not an ideal situation. Whatever his voices are telling him,
you don't need that in your house.
No,
do you?
I mean, there's a lot of people that will say, and rightly so, well, take him out of your house then, which is a fair comment, but by doing that, he has a long history of drink and drugs, and it is going to be my doorstep he comes banging on. The only thing that's actually losing out on this is my children and myself.
What impact is that having on you?
It's destroyed us as a family. We've got no closeness anymore. We can't sit and watch a film together. It's absolutely destroyed my family.
Well, it is an incredible story, and Kirsty was on the show about an hour ago and was obviously very emotional about the whole situation. She has a support worker from the charity Carers in Bedfordshire, Shelley Hobbs, who's in the studio now. Morning, Shelley.
Hello.
Very quickly, just explain what your charity does, Carers in Bedfordshire.
We support all carers, unpaid carers from the age of 4 onwards. Now, there's many different means that we can do that. We can advocate for them. We have many different support.
Hang on, there are carers who are aged 4?
Yes. Some, yeah.
Wow, OK, that's a conversation for a different day, but OK, go on.
So we have many different support groups for them, but we kind of try and move away from the word support group, and we have like walking groups and coffee mornings, or for the young children we have young carers clubs where they can come to just to have a break from their caring role and have that time for themselves, so they can actually do their caring role as best they can.
Kirsty's situation sounds so complicated, and it sounds like there are no winners. What can you do for Kirsty to make her life easier?
Well, we've been involved with the family, myself and my colleague Sue Bray, since January, and since then we've actually been supporting them with their problems of housing and their mental health. Now, my colleague Sue and I have actually been advocating and signposting on behalf of the family, trying to contact other services and inquire what they can offer the family and offering suggestions where appropriate. We've carried out many home visits and one-to-one sessions in an attempt to provide an opportunity for them to discuss their feelings and their concerns, and also advocated for them in trying to receive the best possible
I don't understand
services.
Why anybody in the local authorities... This gentleman, her brother, is obviously very ill.
Yeah.
And why anybody would think that, a visit once a week is enough for him. But what are the local authorities saying?
Well, I can't really talk on behalf of them, but there have been many delays, and they've just basically haven't treated the family, as best as they could, I would imagine. It's been very frustrating for the whole family.
Well, it must be. Who is responsible for her brother? Is it Kirsty? Is she responsible? Is the local council responsible?
Well, obviously the mental health team do have a responsibility to look after him. Kirsty's obviously looking after him because he has been housed in temporary housing with the mental health team and with other people, and the support that he's received from them hasn't been adequate enough, and it's failed, so he's either ended up in hospital or he's ended up going back to her address.
Kirsty's, when she came in, she's obviously very upset, but obviously still a very strong woman. It must be difficult for her because she has the responsibility of a loving sister, looking after her brother, but she's also a mum. How do those two things kind of coexist?
Well, obviously, she mentioned that it's having an impact on the relationship with the children. Myself and my other colleague, Rachel Hall, are actually supporting the children. One of them is coming to our young carers clubs, and she has been enjoying it. So we're doing as much as we can to still help them and support them and get them back into so they're not isolated from their friends and they're still doing well at school. I've actually completed a common assessment framework form with Kirsty in regards to one of her children, just so we can get all the relevant services working together in a coordinated way, and we have regular meetings to obviously so everyone can sit together and discuss what issues there are. People can then have a better understanding of each other's roles, and we can jointly agree on the needs of the family. And we have only actually had one meeting, and it was primarily around housing. So
how common a problem is this? I know that caring is a huge thing. There are huge numbers of carers who go completely unnoticed, and they save the country billions of pounds. But how common is this for someone to be caring for a relative and to feel they are not getting the support from their local authorities?
From my experience, it's not that common at all.
Right, OK, really. So this is kind of a rare case. It must be very... I mean, I can't even begin to imagine what it's like for her. And you're obviously offering a lot of support for Kirsty. There must be some breaking point, though, when she just can't carry on doing this.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm surprised she hasn't done that already, to be honest. She's doing so well, and like you say, she's a very strong person. And I don't think it's going to be long before she does get to that point.
OK, well, listen, thank you for coming in. We've got the leaflet here, Carers in Bedfordshire. If people want to get in touch, I've got two phone numbers. Here's the Bedford phone number, 0300 111 1919. And there's a website as well, caresinbeds.org.uk. If people... What kind of people can get in touch with you? Who can come and get in touch with you?
Anyone can get in touch. The carers can get in touch with us themselves, or they can be referred by other people, by schools, any services, really. So.
And there are 4-year-old kids that are carers?
Yeah. Sometimes the children at that age, they're not necessarily doing a lot of the physical care, but they're affected emotionally by what's going on. Yeah.
Wow, I find that incredible. Listen, thank you very much for coming in. Very nice to meet you.
Thank you, and you.
Send our best again to Kirsty for her amazing story. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Right. Let's go and get the latest travel from the locked out of her own home, Sophie Tyler.
Beds, Herts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Southbound on the M1, queuing at the moment with one lane closed and long delays following an accident. 2 cars involved near junction 12 at Flitwick. Congestion back to 13 at Bedford. Going to take you around 45 minutes to get through that stretch. Now, anti-clockwise on the M25, we also have a broken down vehicle between 26 at Waltham Abbey and 25 at the A10 for Enfield. And in Nebworth, Watton Road is partially blocked with hazardous driving conditions following an accident and lots of ice between Nebworth and Hertford Road. Everything else not too bad at all this morning. Seems to be moving fairly nicely. Trains looking good. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you very much, Sophie. Right, it's 8:15. It's Thursday, the 28th of March. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. A Bedford mother of 3 says she desperately needs help from the authorities in order to cope with her brother, who has paranoid schizophrenia. Hertfordshire's Police and Crime Commissioner is set to stand in the upcoming county council elections because he wants to pull together all the different services in the county. And in sport, Mark Roberts... Come in, Jonathan. Don't pull faces at me when I'm trying to do the news. I'm reading about the caretaker manager for Stevenage. Oh. Don't pull faces at me. The people rely on me to let them know what's happening to Mark Roberts and Stevenage. Oh, for goodness... Stick that up your backside. In sport, Mark Roberts will be caretaker manager once again for Stevenage's game at Crawley tomorrow. And apologies to all Stevenage fans who have... That story's been ruined. Oh, for goodness sakes. The weather today for Beds, Herts and Bucks. A few isolated wintry showers possible, but dry for the most part with some bright or sunny spells. Maximum temperature is 5 degrees. Coming up, Justin Dealey is on the hunt for a St. Do that face again.
I go.
Right, I'm going to tweet that. I'm tweeting that and Facebooking the face that you've been doing. Dealey's on the hunt for a woman this morning. That's all I'm... Oh, shut up!
BBC
So rude.
Counties Radio.
Nick Coffer on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Every weekday between 12 and 3, I'm here with a little bit of celebrity.
I've always loved being a comedian because it's my job, so I'm going to keep doing that.
I was voted Japan's #1 male vocalist of the year, and I beat out Frank Sinatra. How's that?
Expert advice.
It does sound like it's a mechanical pain brought on by altered mechanics in your upper limb.
Your capital's protected because I'm guessing what you don't want to do is take any risks with the capital itself.
And loads of really great music.
Nick Coffer, weekdays from 12 on BBC Three Counties Radio.
That's a little bit of... can you beatbox?
Don't be ridiculous.
Hang on a minute, let me get... No, I can do it. I can do beatboxing. It's easy, isn't it? It's just doing drums with your voice. Hang on a second. There we go. Right.
It's like Police Academy.
I wanted to interview that gentleman from the Police Academy who does the sound effects. And
it was a woman. Was it a man or a
bloke? It was a bloke. Sorry. And to interview him, he was in London at the time, and it was for a London radio station when I worked there. To interview him, I had to put... He said, yeah, OK, I want to be put up in a 5-star hotel, and I want a cab to and from the hotel. I said... You're just the bloke from Police Academy that does the sound effects. Some people think you're a woman, for goodness sakes. So we didn't get the interview that night. Steve Guttenberg, on the other hand,
you put him up in a hotel.
No, well, Steve Guttenberg, now one of my best friends.
Really?
Mahoney's my best friend. I've got his phone number in my phone.
Really?
Let me just get my phone. Let me just type in my password. Let me go to my contacts and let's type in famous friends, Steve the Luton Ghost Hunter, Steve Guttenberg, Mahoney. Yeah, that's...
Go on then, phone him.
Well, I'm not going to phone him now, am I?
Why not?
Well, because
the number doesn't exist.
No.
It's just anybody's old... It's probably my nan's number. You phone Steve Guttenberg. Hello, dear?
He's good at voices.
Right.
What's coming up on your show this morning?
On the big
Dream Destroyer.
On the big phone in this morning from 9. How do we stop someone choosing to live their life on benefits? There's outrage from some of the nation's newspaper readers about the story of a Hertfordshire woman who gets more on benefits than many people earn by working a full week. Sharon Minkim from St Albans has also been on TV explaining her circumstances. Have you seen her?
I've read about her in the papers. I know that Justin Dealey has been on the hunt for her this morning. We'll speak to Justin in a minute, see how he's getting on.
Well, to earn what she receives in benefits, the divorced mother of 3 would have to have a job that pays £70,000 a year. She told ITV's This Morning that she would take a job tomorrow if it wouldn't leave her worse off, and says the benefit system needs to be changed to make it possible for people like her to get back to work. Well, from 9 this morning, I want to hear your views. How do we stop someone choosing to live their life on benefits? If the reality is she'd have to get a job that pays £70,000 a year, and how many of them are there at the moment, let's face it, then is it any wonder that she wants to live her life on benefits? But how do we stop her? How do we stop her? Because isn't the reality that if she's getting £70,000 worth of benefits, take off the tax, so what's that, 47,000, something like that after tax?
Yes.
I mean, that's just outrageous, isn't it? That the country is paying somebody £47,000 on benefits.
You pay tax on benefits.
No, you don't. But if she gets £47,000, the equivalent would have to be a 70,000 job. I mean, £47,000 a year in benefits. How on earth can anybody justify that? How on earth can anybody feel that that is in any way acceptable for not working, not contributing yourself?
Yes.
Well, from 9 this morning, I really want to hear your views. How do we stop someone choosing to live their life on benefits? Perhaps you can totally identify with this benefits trap that some people are in, where they just would have to get a job that doesn't exist, paying an amount that doesn't exist at the moment, in order to earn the same amount as they're getting at the moment on benefits.
Well, stay here, Jonathan, because we've got Justin on the line now. Justin, you're in St Albans. You've been trying to find this lady, haven't you?
Yes, I have indeed. I think you might laugh at this story, actually. Sharon Minkin, who you're talking about, I spoke to Sharon this morning just after 7:30.
Did you?
Not yet, I did. I knocked on her front door. She clearly wasn't very happy that I'd knocked on her front door, but she did agree to talk to us if the person who was dealing with her press authorised that.
Sorry?
Yes.
She's got a press officer?
She has. So, the person who is dealing with her press is one of these companies who sell people's stories.
Oh.
So, when I eventually got hold of this person, for a good 10 minutes or so, I was literally holding the phone away from my ear. The conversation went like this: how dare you phone me at this time? Who do you think you are? I am nothing. I am a rude little man.
That's true.
No, I'm about 6'3", actually.
Yeah.
I'm threatening. I was screamed at, and the conversation ended with this lady saying to me, I'm going to advise Sharon not to talk to you, because what is she going to get from talking to you? You're just local, and it's for nothing.
Yeah.
So I'm going to advise her that she doesn't come.
So let me just clarify, is she coming on the show, yes or no?
Well, I think from my tone there, you'll gather she won't. But in saying that, Sharon, if you are listening...
Come on, Sharon.
And you want to talk to us,
Come on.
You said to us earlier you would be happy to talk to us if the person from this website who sells people's stories agrees to it, you would come on.
Well, Sharon, come on, for goodness sake, don't be silly, for goodness sakes. Come on. But if she's charging for interviews.
Well, I was told, what is she going to get from you, again, to quote, what is she going to get from talking to you? Yeah. You are just local, and it's for nothing.
Well, I'm hoping she's declaring...
What I said was, it's her point, her chance to come on the radio this morning. She's local, it's a big national news story. Would she like to come on and explain the article? Because sometimes in these articles here, things that are written aren't often the truth. It's her chance, and it was put to me, well... You're getting paid for doing your job this morning. Why shouldn't Sharon get paid for talking to us?
Excellent point. As long as she's declaring that, of course, to the authorities that are paying the benefits.
So that's how the conversation went.
Well, Justin, I'm sorry that you were confronted with your own truth today, but thank you very much for following that up.
Oh, it's a pleasure.
Cheers, Justin. Jonathan, thank you very much. 08459 455 555. Give us your question one more time so the people...
How do we stop someone choosing to live their life on benefits? I have a feeling after Justin's little conversation we might get even more calls now from 9.
Sharon, isn't it, is her name?
Yeah.
Sharon, listen, call me or call Jonathan. You need to put your side forward, because people aren't going to be happy, and you need to let us know the truth. Jonathan, thank you very much indeed. We'll speak to you later on. I'm going to carry on with this now, because we're going to go to Leo McKinstry, who is a Daily Express columnist. Good morning, Leo.
Good morning.
I don't know if you just heard our reporter.
Yes.
Justin,
it just sums up the whole madness of the modern welfare state. That someone who on benefits should actually have an agent deciding their media appearances. This is a sort of sense of entitlement completely out of control. And as you said, we have now people on benefits who, if they were working, their level of income from the welfare state is so high that they'd be in the highest tax bracket. I mean, it's completely barking, really.
Listen, I'm not one of these people that I think that benefits are appropriate where they're appropriate. I'm not one of these witch hunters, and I know that this is a rarity. There are not hundreds of people living like this. This woman is a rarity, but it does seem incredible that this has been allowed to happen.
Well, exactly, and I'm not sure it is that such a rarity. I mean, there's a stream of these stories, whether this one's Sharon Meakin, or there was notorious Heather Frost, who is having a £400,000 house built for 11 children, able to keep a horse, and hardly does any work at all. The welfare state was founded originally by the Liberals in the Edwardian age, and then extended by Labour after the Second World War. And the original aim was you paid money in, and you got benefits back in times of trouble, whether you were unemployed or sick. But it wasn't meant to provide a permanent, subsidised, comfortable lifestyle for years on end without any contribution at all. And that's where it's gone so horribly wrong. And you said a rarity, but there's been examples in London, a huge number of cases of people living in very elegant, expensive houses in London, paid for by the taxpayer, and the taxpayer couldn't possibly afford to have those houses themselves. It's a terrible injustice, really. It's outrageous that
You're right.
People are paying for lifestyles that they couldn't afford themselves.
I think that is an interesting point, and it is meant to be there to help people. I signed on for a couple of years and got housing benefit, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity that gave me.
You didn't think that well, this is it. I'll do this for the next 40 years.
No. That was it was a stopgap when I was in a slightly tricky situation. I've more than paid back in taxes what I took out of the system, and that's the way it should work. Is there anything that can be done about this?
Well, the coalition government is trying to do something, and this is a very interesting point, Iain, that the coalition is introducing welfare reforms, and one specific one which should affect Sharon Meakin is an absolute limit on the amount of benefits you could claim in any year, and that limit is £26,000, which is meant to be in line with average earnings. I mean, it's still, for most people, that's incredibly high, that you can get as much of welfare as you could on the average earnings. But those, and there's other measures they're introducing, like to reduce the council tax bill, the housing benefit bill, like the so-called bedroom tax is really a withdrawal of subsidy for people who've got spare rooms, more accommodation than they need. But those attempts by the coalition to reform the welfare state have led to a deluge of outrage and sob stories and wailing and anger and protest. And I'm so glad you're highlighting this case this morning, because it does present the other side of the abuses and the terrible waste that goes on in the welfare state and the gross injustice. And I think, there's been an awful lot of sob stories and synthetic outrage against the coalition's reforms, but cases like Sharon Meakin's prove that something has to be done.
Leo, listen, we'll end it there. Thank you. Leah McKinstry is Daily Express columnist. And listen, I'm not one of these people that's, let's stop all benefits. Oh, everybody... despite what Leo says, I do think this is an exception. I don't think there are that many people that are enjoying £70,000 worth of benefits. And I signed on for a couple of years, got housing benefit, was very grateful for it. Wonderful. Helped me out of a sticky situation. But this woman's taking the mick, isn't she? And the thing that swung it for me is Justin Dealey being told to contact her press advisor. That's any vestiges of sympathy I may have had for Sharon Meakin when we were told, speak to the press advisor. And then the press advisor got a cob on with Justin for wanting to chase a story. 08459 455 555 is the telephone number. Sharon Meakin, if you're listening, and you will be listening now because you've met Justin Dealey, you have so got to give us a call and put your side forward. Maybe I've missed something. Maybe I've totally missed something on this. You need to tell me what it is I missed, because people are going to be hating on you, girlfriend. And you need to put your side forward. Do give us a call, 08459 455 555. Also asking this morning, after travel guru Sophie Tyler, she's locked out of her house until Monday. Hey, there's a worried-looking picture of her on Twitter at the moment. What have you been locked out of? CK in bed says, I locked some keys in a locker before. I undid the padlock, put the keys on the shelf before taking what I needed, closed the doors and locked the padlock back up. Once it clicked slowly, it dawned on me that I'd left the keys in. The keys were to all the doors in the depot I was working on. It involved me fetching some bolt cutters and working around the boss who was showing investors around. Once I got the keys back, I went to the boss to come clean as I destroyed the padlock. What have you been locked out of? I've been locked out of my house so many times. I once smashed a window to get in. Smashing a window, turns out, is really hard. Be honest, we've all done it. We've all been stupid. We've all shut that door and gone, oh no, I think my keys are in there. What have you locked yourself out of this morning? 08459 455 555. And it all started with Sophie Tyler.
Beds, hearts and bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Southbound on the M1, queuing at the moment with one lane closed and long delays following an accident. 2 cars involved just near 12 at Flitwick. Congestion is back to 13 at Bedford. It's going to take you around 45 minutes to get through that stretch. Anti-clockwise on the M25, a broken down vehicle causing problems just between 26 at Waltham Abbey and 25 at the A10 for Enfield. Congestion back to 27 at the M11 and 25 minutes worth of delays anti-clockwise as well between 17 at Maple Cross and 15 at the M4. Now everything else not actually causing that much of a problem at the moment. It seems to be all moving fairly nicely out there, and the trains not looking too bad either on the departure boards. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Sophie. 8:31, here's the latest news and sport with Serena Farrow.
Getting beds, hearts and bugs talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Good morning. A Bedford mother of 3 says she desperately needs help from the authorities in order to cope with her brother, who suffers from paranoid schizophrenia. Hertfordshire's police and crime commissioners set to stand in the upcoming county council elections because he wants to pull together all the different services across the county. Doctors want the NHS to delay the launch of a new non-emergency helpline, which is replacing NHS Direct and is set to go live on Monday. And a woman from St Albans says working isn't worth it because she receives £70,000 in welfare benefits. Well, there'll be more on this story as the JVS show will be asking, how do we stop someone choosing to live their life on benefits? All that from 9 o'clock. That's the news. Now let's turn to all the morning sport.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks Sport.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
So kicking off with the Championship, and Watford's defender Nyron Nosworth is out of tomorrow's game because of injury. They face former manager Sean Dyche's Burnley at home. Key midfielder Alman Abdi may also be fit. Turning to Stevenage, who are 15th in League One, they take on Crawley with skipper Mark Roberts at the helm once again. The Borough are still in search of a new manager. Meanwhile, Milton Keynes Dons make the long trip to Hartlepool with striker Isali McLeod an injury doubt. League 2 and Wickham host Accrington at Adams Park. Let's turn to Milton Keynes Lightning and a bit of ice hockey. Their chairman there says everything will be done to make the move to Coventry as painless as possible. It comes as the club's junior teams may move to Oxford. Well, Vito Rosa hosted a fans forum this week. That was ahead of the refurbishment of the rink in MK.
It's going to have an impact, no question about it. But at the same time, we think many of our fans will make the travel up to Coventry from Milton Keynes. We're going to be laying on coaches and we're going to try and make it as easy as we possibly can.
Finally, in tennis, Andy Murray plays Marin Cilic in the quarterfinals of the Miami Masters tonight. Murray will place Roger Federer as the world number 2 if he wins the tournament. His coach, Ivan Lendl, feels that they may potentially help him at the French Open.
The draw will be really important, obviously. If Andy can get to number 2 and be seeded second and have a relatively freer path and the others play among themselves and take their physical and mental energy from each other, the chances improve, providing Andy can do his job and beat the others.
BBC Three Counties Radio. There'll be more from me at 9.
Across Beds, Hearts and Bucks, this is Iain Lee on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Morning, 08459 455 555 is the phone number. Lots for you to talk about, including, would you be prepared to take in a relative into your own home if they were mentally ill? Well, all morning we've been hearing the incredible story of a Bedford woman who says her family is being torn apart because of a lack of support for her brother who has paranoid schizophrenia. If you're a carer, do you feel that you get enough support from your local authorities, from the local council, from the NHS? Or do you feel you've been completely abandoned? We've talked about carers before, and there really is. There are so many out there who do, amazing amount of work. And they're completely ignored. 08459 455 555, your caring story, please. And also the newspapers are reporting the story of a Hertfordshire woman who claims benefits equivalent to a salary of £70,000. Our reporter Justin Dealey is in St Albans finding out what you think needs to be done to get people off benefits. And please, if anyone listens to this show, I'm not one of these kind of rabid, we must stop benefits, everyone who's on benefits is a scrounger. I don't believe that at all. I think the benefit system is amazing. It helped me, it's helped my friends, it's wonderful when it's used properly. But this woman, what annoyed me about this Sharon Minkin woman is that Justin found her house, knocked on the door, a little bit cheeky, but, fair enough. But then she said to Justin, yeah, you'll have to speak to my press officer. Sorry? The fact that we live in a world in 2013 when someone who is famous because they're claiming benefits, they have a press officer? I'd be interested to know if Sharon Minkin is charging for any of the interviews that she's doing. I don't mind the fact that the press officer dissed us for being a local radio station. It's fine. It's a lazy argument, but fine. Good for you. Well done. They may have a point to a certain extent. But if they are charging for interviews, I do hope that those fees are being disclosed to the benefits. 08459 455 555 is the phone number. And also, Sophie Tyler, our travel woman, she's locked herself out of her house. Not a great problem, you think, but somebody else can let her in. The house is empty until Monday. Everyone's gone away for Easter. She's locked out. What have you been locked out of? It happens to me a lot a lot, and it's so expensive to get the locksmith out. The number of times I've sat out in the freezing cold on the doorstep waiting for a locksmith, 120 quid, cash in hand. Do we take card? No. Check? No. Receipt? Oh, I haven't got my receipts with me. It's cash. Thieves. The last fella that let me in was an ex-thief. Very dodgy, Bodsky. What have you been locked out of? 08459 455 555. And if we get time, we'll have a quick look at the front pages of the papers as well. Glenn is in Heath and Reach. Morning, Glenn.
Ian.
You're calling in about this Sharon Minkin and her benefits.
Oh, yes. Yeah, definitely.
Go on, what's your take on this?
Well, I think it's disgusting, but I know loads and loads of people who are milking the system. Like I said to your girl who answered the phone...
Yeah, my girl.
They do with benefits what they did with mortgage tax relief many years ago. We start to phase it out. I know people are going to be angry about what I've said, but I'm fed up of me having to work 3 jobs whilst my neighbour 2 doors up from me has a nice new car, Sky TV, goes away on holiday, and they're on the dole, and they don't want to work. So I'd phase it out, but not altogether. There would be some other benefit, but we start to phase it out, and that will give people that don't want to work a wake-up call to say, well, if we want this type of lifestyle, we better start looking.
But isn't it the problem with something like that, Glenn, is that I mean, this woman, it would appear, and again, Sharon, come on and put your case forward, either to me or to Jonathan after 9 o'clock, because I don't want this to be a hounding of you. But there are some people who take the mick, but there are some people, Glenn, who need the benefits and desperate in dire situations. If you kind of wean people off, is there not a chance that those who really need help could also be penalised?
Well, there would obviously be procedures for that. It's not too difficult to find out. I don't think so. Who is taking the mickey? I seriously don't think it's that hard. You know, if there is somebody who is disabled and cannot work because of that, then I agree they should be exempt from it. But I think we should take a hard line at this now and start to toughen up a little bit. If you want a lifestyle like you've got, you need to earn it.
Glenn, thank you very much indeed. We did mention this the other day, didn't we? And I mentioned this, I was on Sky News the other night, and I mentioned this on Sky News. I got lots of abuse for suggesting it. The housing association that suggested that if you were going to be losing money because of the in inverted commas bedroom tax, the decrease in benefits because you had a spare room, that you should get rid of your luxuries, such as Sky TV. I know I mentioned this on Sky TV, I didn't go down with the bosses. You should get rid of the luxuries such as Sky TV, the smoking and the drinking and the bingo. And that makes sense to me. That's not that harsh. I wouldn't say it should be a compulsory thing. You shouldn't do what UKIP are doing and force people on benefits to lose those things. But it does seem to me, if you've got luxuries and you've not got much money, then you should get rid of them, shouldn't you? And Sky TV is a luxury. I know we all love watching Game of Thrones on Sky Atlantic. It's a luxury, isn't it? 08459 455 555. And also, what have you been locked in? Rob's in Harrow. Morning, Rob.
Morning, Ian. How are you?
I'm fine. Rob, have you ever been locked out of anything?
No, I did go to a gig a few years ago, and you know, sometimes they say, sorry, the gig's started, you can't get in.
Yes. Yeah, you couldn't get into the gig?
I didn't get into the gig. I had to wait till half-time because it was one of these arena shows.
Oh, so they wouldn't... Because some shows are like that. You have to wait until there's an interval. They won't let you go in. Well, who was it you were going to see, Rob?
Aha!
Yeah, but who was it you were going to see?
Aha!
OK, but... Oh, you were going to see Aha?
Oh, I see. Comic, still got it.
Rob, you've called in about the benefits.
Yeah, the benefits, right? The story is, there's a woman on our road, she's about 75, old lady, bless her.
Yeah.
Still gets up every morning, cleans the windows. Yeah?
Yeah.
Retired. Yeah, 2 doors down, a family, they're on benefits, they've got Sky TV, they've got iPads, and they're on benefits. They don't want to get up in the morning. And I just think, if you're claiming benefits, you should be giving something back to society, you know. I just don't think it's fair. God bless that old lady. Her name's Doris. Lovely lady. Oh,
Rob, we're losing the signal there, Rob, but thank you very much for that indeed. 08459 455 555 is the phone number. Right, Ophelia's in Luton. Good morning, Ophelia.
Morning, Ian.
Good morning, Ophelia. What have you called in about?
I just called in about the discussion about the lady that came on about her brother who has mental health problems. And,
yes, this was Kirsty,
her
who's
saying her life has been ruined and so forth.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I want it to be clear that I'm not being respectful about her views, and I have to respect her opinion and her view of it actually impacting on her life. But I just thought, constantly as I was hearing the interviews and so forth, it just made me think about what does he see as happening to him? How does he feel being in that household? And mental health is quite stigmatising. And I have a cousin who, I hadn't seen for a long time because I moved to Luton. And then I got a call out of the blue saying that they were going to section her. None of her family wanted to know because there's that sense that you're tired, you've had enough. And I think there does need to be some support for family members to keep together because the sister described him as being, what did she say? He's a stranger. He's not a stranger, he's a family member.
Well, no,
he don't remember him. And he must feel that he doesn't belong, he's unwanted.
Well, no,
That's
Ophelia,
not
I
gonna help
think
his mental health.
just to clarify what Kirsty was saying, she cleared it up for us that the family's being torn apart by the lack of help they're getting from the council. But also, I think from what Kirsty said, it would imply that his illness is so prevalent that's what's making him feel like a stranger. He sits in the living room listening to Rain on his Walkman.
Yeah. She turned up out of the blue. Maybe she wasn't prepared and had time to really contemplate. But if you put him in a flat and it's already failed so many times, he needs some sense of semi-independence. Yeah. Whatever housing he goes in, he's going to need support of his family. Yeah. Maybe she just needs some extra support from an agency that's going to look at her as a carer.
And I think if he lived somewhere else, I'm sure Kirsty would go and support him. But do you think it's right, Ophelia, that she's sort of been forced to look after him? Is that right?
No, it's not. But can I just say, add something else before you cut me off, my gorgeous? The Welfare Reform Act that's coming in is going to cause a lot more of these situations to happen. That lady that's on her 70,000, there's a cap on it now. She won't be getting that.
Yeah.
Check out what's been said about the welfare reform. It's going to deal with a lot of these.
Can you believe this lady, this benefits lady that Sharon Minkin?
Ian, I can believe it, and it's sad. But when
she's got a press officer, Ophelia. She's got a press officer.
Ian, what did she say to you? The government made it seem it was more easier for her to stay at home than go out to work. But the other thing I want to say to you is this: I'm in full agreement with you. No, you can't have Sky TV if you can't afford it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have had to deal with people who say that I have no money to live on. I assessed all their jewellery and tell them to go and pawn it. I have looked at what they've got on, which is an accessory. Yeah. I said, you maybe need to put that phone on eBay, and told them that I don't think it's acceptable. You're going to get acrylic nails when you can't put bread on your children's table.
Well, there you go, Ophelia, you're right. People are getting acrylic nails when they can't afford to feed their kids, and yes, downgrade to a Nokia. These things seemed obvious to me, but I think maybe that was the way I was brought up. When we had money, my mum always put some money aside, and we would occasionally buy nice things. When we didn't have so much money, we didn't buy things, and we dipped into the money we'd put aside. That seems like common sense to me, but I'm guessing I'm sounding like a right-wing old Tory, I know. I'm guessing that's not really instilled in people anymore. 08459 455 555. Sharon Mencken, listen, I don't want this to be a knocking of you, Sharon, at all. You have to give us a call. You really do. Or you've got to give Jonathan a call after 9. 08459 455 555, because maybe there's something in this story that we're missing about you getting all of these benefits. Maybe there is something we're missing. And I would hate to be one of those broadcasters that does a terrible one-sided attack on someone when we don't know the full facts. The full facts is presented by the Daily Mail. Give us a call, Sharon. 08459 455 555. Right. Let's get the travel news now. Sophie Tyler.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Southbound on the M1, queuing at the moment following an earlier accident which has now been moved to the hard shoulder. It's just near junction 12 at Flitwick with congestion back to 13 at Bedford. Now all lanes have been reopened, but we're still looking at delays of around 30 minutes. And also clockwise on the M25, one lane closed following a broken down lorry. Recovery work taking place as well around junction 24 at Potters Bar. And anti-clockwise, 25 minutes worth of delays between 17 at Maple Cross and 15 at the M4. Everything else really not looking too bad. Few usual delays around the A10 and the A1, but nothing that's going to hold you up for too long at all. Train's still looking good. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
Sophie, have you sorted out what you're going to do to get into your house?
I've had a breakthrough.
Go on, what's happened?
I'm going to have to go from work this morning.
Yes.
Cycle across to the other side of London to pick up my housemate's keys that she's left on the front desk of her office. Go home, but then take them back when I have to come back into work this afternoon.
It's a real shame because we had a call. Everyone's very concerned about you, Sophie. we all like to protect you here. And Mary from Hemel called up and said that if you were stuck, you could stay in her barn.
That's nice. Where's this barn?
It's in Hemel. Just the word barn would put me off slightly.
Well,
you're considering it, aren't you?
You know, when push comes to shove.
Yeah, exactly.
Sophie chooses, can they?
They can't. Sophie, thank you very much. And thank you, Mary, for suggesting that. It's very generous of you. Right, 8:47. It's Thursday, the 28th of March. I'm Iain Lee, and these are your headlines on BBC Three Counties Radio. A Bedford mother of three says she desperately needs help from the authorities in order to cope with her brother who suffers from schizophrenia. Hertfordshire's Police and Crime Commissioner is adamant he can provide better policing if he's successful in the upcoming County Council elections. In sport, Watford's defender Nyron Nosworthy is out of tomorrow's game with Burnley because of injury and of having a made-up name. Coming up, the newspapers are reporting the story of a Hertfordshire woman who claims benefits equivalent to a salary of £70,000. Well, lots more of your views on this before 9 o'clock, but before that, let's get the weather with Elizabeth Rossini.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks weather.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Well, if you ignore the fact that it's still freezing cold, then it's a nice, pretty morning out there. We've got lots of spells of sunshine. They'll last into the first part of the afternoon when I think it is going to turn a little bit more cloudy. So, yeah, a bit of cloud feeding through into the afternoon. Still a little bit of brightness out there. Of course, it's still really cold, isn't it? The temperatures have been below freezing all morning, just creeping up to 1 degree now, and probably getting up to no higher than between around 4 and 6 degrees Celsius later on in St Albans and Stevenage and Aylesbury, and in Luton as well. That's just 43 in Fahrenheit. The northeasterly wind, it's still there. It's still very nagging and bitter, but it is slightly lighter than it has been over the last couple of days, which is good news. And it should stay dry as well. As we head into this evening and overnight, temperatures will fall to -3, -4 degrees Celsius. It's going to feel bitterly cold once more. The wind will drop out, so a severe frost into tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow it's going to be more of the same. Now, I think it is going to be a bit cloudier. There might just be the odd light wintry flurry at times, just a dusting of light icing sugar, I think. Not amounting to very much at all, but very similar, very cold throughout the course of the Easter weekend, but certainly staying mostly dry too. That's the forecast.
Thank you, Elizabeth.
Easter weekend on BBC Three Counties Radio. Good Friday from 6. It's Helen Lee.
So what does Easter mean to you? Is it the most important weekend in the Christian diary or a food fest?
From 9, Colin Berry.
I'll have more nostalgia with orchestras and singers depicting music radio like it used to be.
From 11, Richard Williams.
I'll be here with some local stories, live guests and a man having a manicure.
From 2, Three Counties Sport.
There's live commentary on Watford versus Burnley, Hartlepool against MK Dons and Stevenage away to Crawley.
From 6, Jerry Byrne.
Join me for some of the very best Irish music and much more.
Good Friday on BBC Three Counties Radio.
Sad news, Norman Collier has died. Now, all of the young people are going, who? What? Norman Collier? Norman Collier was brilliant, okay. Well, the Express describes him as a genius. Okay, I would suggest that's a little bit pushing it a little bit too far. His act was very limited. As The Sun says, the father of three, married for 65 years, was famed for pretending his microphone worked only impermittently and impersonating a chicken. That was his act. That was his act, is he would pretend that doesn't work. Pretend the microphone wasn't working, and he would pull his jacket down and pretend he was a chicken. Right. Trust me, it was brilliant, but that was it. And in the 70s, that's all you needed to get on TV. He was on the Des O'Connor show every week. I can see Jonathan laughing. It's true, isn't it? It's true. That was the act. Every week it was normal. Oh, my mum used to hate him. Oh, here comes that idiot. Look, he's going to pretend his microphone doesn't work. As a kid, I thought it was brilliant. To describe him as a genius is perhaps a little bit stretching the term, the G word, a little bit too far, but very sad to hear that he's passed away. 08459 455 555. Sharon Minkin, we're looking for you. You've got 9 minutes to call this show, or you can give Jonathan a call. Depends who you think's going to be softer with you. Listen, I'm keen to get both sides of the story, because I hate doing these the very one-sided attacks on people who are on benefits. I think it's terribly unfair. But if you or your press officer won't let you come on because we're local, how are we going to get the other side? 08459 455 555. Kazzie's from Letchworth. Morning, Kazzie.
Morning.
Kazzie, what have you called in about this morning?
Well, I'm on two benefits. I'm on ESA.
Yes.
And I'm on DLA, which is Disability Living Allowance.
Yes.
And my benefits are very, very poor. The money's not very good at all, but I can just about make ends meet. But I want people to know that I'm not just sitting on my backside. I've got mental disability. Right. I have ADHD, bipolar, and OCD.
So you have various reasons, health reasons, why you can't work. When you hear about people like Sharon Minkin, who's earning the equivalent of if she had a £70,000 job...
It's not that we can't work.
Right.
When I go for interviews, I have to be honest and tell them about my problems, my situation and everything. And as soon as you tell them that, they say to you, oh, well, we'll let you know. And at that point, you know you're not going to get that job. So what I've done, I've put myself... I've dropped in regularly to a voluntary centre, and I've done gardening for old age pensioners.
Oh,
we do that. We don't get paid for it. I've done voluntary work in shops, charity shops, and I'm trying to prove that I can do 5 hours work in a day. But anything over that, I struggle because of my ADHD. My focus is very bad, and I can get very moody, and I have terrible mood swings. And because of my depression and my bipolar, I find it hard to motivate myself. But I'm trying to prove to people when I go to work, when I go to these voluntary shops or whatever, I'm trying to prove that, I am capable of doing something.
Well, Kazzie, listen, good for you. And I think this is part of the thing. It all sounds nice. Oh, yeah, staying at home, doing no work. But you would go bonkers, wouldn't you? You would go bonkers. Unless you were really, really rich and you could afford to travel the world. You would go nuts. And Kazzie, good for you for going out and doing stuff. I have been told that we are in negotiations with Sharon Minkin's press officer to sort things out. I would just suggest, if you're a press officer, and press is your thing, having a go at a journalist or a reporter is probably not the best way of dealing with things. We're talking about this because would you work if you could earn the equivalent of a £70,000 salary in benefits? Well, one woman from St Albans says working isn't worth it with all the money that she gets in welfare. We're talking, of course, of mother of three, Sharon Minkin. She lives in a 3-bedroom semi-detached house. Our reporter, Justin Dealey. Justin, you've been out in St Albans all morning. You took an earful from the press officer. And you've been talking to people in St Albans about this, have you?
Yes, we have got an update on a potential interview to come very, very soon. But as you mentioned, I'm in St Albans. It's in a number of the national newspapers, this story this morning, and I've been getting reaction locally, and this is what people have had to say. Madam, we're talking about benefits this morning. What incentive will get you to go back to work?
I would go back to work for less money than that. I do work for less money than that, and I'm not on benefits.
And the reason being because you enjoy what you do, to be out of the house and to meet people?
Work ethics.
Yeah.
And I do like to get out of the house and meet people. Yeah.
Just lastly, anybody who's on about £70,000 a year in benefits, I mean, what's your reaction to that? And don't sit on the fence.
I'm dumbfounded by it, to think that someone can claim that amount of money on benefits.
Does it make you angry that you're working day in, day out to effectively pay for somebody like that?
I don't know the full story, though. I will say that, but I do think it's a large amount of money.
Well, madam, you know all about Sharon Minkin and the story you've read about it. What's your reaction to it?
My reaction is, first of all, horror, but when you break down her list of benefits, it's actually what most people are on, but hers added up are 70,000. It was shocking, really. Most people, she should have taken her job at 20,000 a year, really.
Can I just ask you lastly, what incentives would get you back to work if you were on benefits and you weren't working?
A job at my age, actually. Any incentive to get you back to work. I just think it would be cheaper for the government to pay £5,000 for her retraining to bring her up to date with her accounting skills than it would do for £70,000. But rents are £1,400, and that's cheap for here. If she was living in town, it'd be more like £1,600 or £1,700 for, it isn't a big house, it's like this, 3 bedrooms, a little bit of a garden. There seems to be outrage, and if you actually really look at it without looking at the headlines, I think people would think, well, thank God I'm, still married, I'm not divorced, I'm not being abandoned.
Well, there's a very calm and measured response from that lady at the end. I think that's why we want to speak to Sharon, so that we can get the other side of the story.
Well, absolutely. An update, of course, earlier on, just after 7:30, I did speak to Sharon. I knocked on her front door. She was happy to talk to us if the person dealing with her press inquiries authorised that. Now, once again, the person dealing with her press is from a company who sell your stories. So money comes into this. Apparently, I was rude, I was nothing, we are local. She was going to advise Sharon not to talk to us because what would she get from talking to you for nothing? Well, since that conversation, another one of my colleagues has spoken to that lady, and apparently we now can talk to Sharon if we send a list of questions in advance and they are authorised. So quite literally, we'll be sitting there reading from a sheet of paper.
Okay.
And I've been warned again, if I knock on Sharon's door, which I wasn't going to anyway, the police will be called.
Okay. And Justin, the same thing applies if you knock on my door again. I'm serious.
Oh, come on, that was only last weekend. It was a one-off.
Yeah, it was 1 o'clock in the morning and you had no trousers and pants on.
I was in my Speedos. I apologise for that now, I'm sorry.
Dirty dealy. Justin, thank you very much. Speak to you later on.
Thanks,
cheers. 08459 455 555 is the phone number. If you want to give JVS a call, he's up next. He'll be asking, how do we stop someone choosing to live their life on benefits? 08459 455 555. It's with great sadness we get the last ever travel from Sophie.
Beds, Hearts and Bucks travel.
BBC Three Counties Radio.
Southbound on the M1, queuing at the moment between 14 at Milton Keynes and 13 at Bedford. Back of the queue is from an earlier accident around junction 12 at Flitwick. And clockwise on the M25, 1 lane closed following a broken down lorry, and recovery work now taking place around 24 at Potter's Bar. Now everything else not actually looking too bad at all. Looks like it's all clearing up fairly nicely at the moment. Little bit slow in the usual trouble areas, particularly the A10 at the Great Cambridge Road, and the A1 at Barnet Bypass heading south, also slow where you'd expect around Stirling Corner. No problems on the trains at all at the moment either. Looking good on the departure boards. Sophie Tyler, BBC Three Counties Radio.
And Sophie, that's it.
That is.
I miss you. Well, thank you very much for everything. And
thanks for having me.
Have a good life.
You too.
And we'll see you again at some point, I'm sure. Take care. Bye-bye. There we go. It's the last ever travel from Sophie Tyler. Right, that's it. I'm not in tomorrow. Helen Lee is in, but I will be in on Bank Holiday Monday. And we haven't got any content. None at all. I'm going to need you. Stay tuned, though, for JVS.
Getting beds, hearts and bucks talking.
This is BBC Three Counties Radio.
Thank you, Iain. Have a super weekend. Good morning, welcome to the JVS show. I'm Jonathan Vernon-Smith. Thursday, the sun is shining in beds, hearts and bucks. And on this morning's big phone-in, I'm asking, how do we stop someone choosing to live their life on beds?